Hello, Scouty Paws. I hope you're well. Okay, just doing some fiddling. Hello, Giant Schmeckle. Hello, AC. Looking handsome as always. Thank you, my man. Certainly exciting. We got some important things to talk about today. Some real important stuff. Probably some of the stuff that you guys can't even comprehend, which will require a lot of teaching, to be honest, because it's stuff that, yeah, everyone needs to hear about. Did you ask me about Rucka Rucka Ali? Hold on, I've taken off my glasses. I know you asked me something about Rucka Rucka Ali. Did you unfollow Rucka Rucka Ali? Well, what if he releases a new parody that I want to listen to, man? Like, what about that? Did you ever think about that, AC? What if Rucka Rucka Ali releases a cool ass parody? What about that? Did you think about that? And I want to listen to it. I need to follow him. What songs? I remember his one that was like about Ebola and then Bin Laden. I think he had a song about as well. His songs were just generally like they're the kind of things that Ethan Klein would have probably, they're sort of comparative to Ethan Klein's content. Oh, he did make a lot of songs. He's still making songs. He's making songs about. The songs look pretty racist, so I think you might be right. Occasionally people do tell me, oh, you should unfollow this person. I'm like, bro, I've been using these accounts for ages. I've been following some of these people since I was a child. I had to go through Twitter and I was like following a lot of strange accounts from when I was a youth, I will say. Like, not unreasonably strange, but pretty crazy stuff that if I was following now, people might be like, hey, why are you following an account like this? And it's like, yeah, I've had this account since I was fucking 12, okay? Or like very young. No, I didn't. I did not actually. I have had that account since I was 18 exclusively. So shut up. Hey, I'm up early enough to catch you. Hell yeah. Morning, Tressa. Morning, Dasari. Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Why'd you say Russia's gay? Is that his song? Is that a song he sings or what? We've certainly got an exciting day. What was I talking about? What do you mean, what am I talking about? I was talking about whatever I was just talking about. The only account anyone should follow is Matt Letitia. He can teach us some things about the world that others wouldn't like us to. Okay, right, let's quickly do the Wordle. Rucker. Let's see if that's a... No. I guess Wreck is pretty close to Rucker, so we'll try that. No, I only got an R. Rainy. Ooh. 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 Rawny. No, Rooney. No. What the fuck is this? This will be a very easiest, obvious thing. Because it has to be with an O or a U. Or maybe both. Rowney, Rooney, Russ. I love burgers! Yo, Gradual Auto, thank you for subbing at tier 1, my man. Thanks for supporting over on Twitch as always. That is goated. Wordle stumped me for no reason. Well, it's stumping me? Oh, it's Runny. It's Runny, isn't it? Yeah, that's it. Nice. I got it. I got it before you said that, Chopper Gamer. Thank you, though. I was struggling with that. Yeah, I know. I know it's Runny now, but that was hard. It's not a word you think of very often, is it? Especially when you got that. Yeah, we'll do the connections as well. Nice way to pass the time. Also, I've tried to set my camera a little lower, so I don't know if that's okay. But yeah, Gradual Auto again. Thank you so much, my pal, bro, mate. Thanks for that. Piker, Hassan Piker, Archer, Job Set, Tang, Soul, Islet, Main, Prime, Main, Arch, Chief. I think these are all words that imply, yeah, like principal. Is Trump exaggerating? What do you think? I just put that as a funny title because it's a funny tweet with Trump's thing on it, and I was like, probably should start putting thumbnails on, and it's just like great one for today. Heal Soul. Oh no, that was the trick. It was supposed to make you think that these are Heal Soul. Thanks for your news coverage. Appreciate the space. Thank you for subscribing, my man. Like, honestly, it's so appreciated. It's nice. The bells are going incredibly loud. Always pleasant when they do that. I guess we'll just have to sit here in silence until they stop. Pretty sure you were debating against Israeli influencer the other day. Wait, what? That's an Israeli influencer. If you That's Mia Talius. That's not... We watched that video. I thought you were talking about that Daniela lady actually being an influencer. That's Mia Talius. She is horrible. Favorite downfall meme, Chris, since you brought it up in your No Politic Here video? Oh, I know. I don't really care for them. It's just like I remember the one where he's like sort of screaming and it's trying to get someone to do an advance. I spoiled the end of my book the other day. I just read the final words from it, which at the end, as it turns out, apparently a certain German shoots himself, and he doesn't do too well out of it. The streams helps me get through the corporate grind. But thank you for being here, Crochet Cat. Thank you for helping me not have to engage in the corporate grind and get to do this. Yeah, I don't miss hearing the bells. They are so annoying when they're just like going ding, ding, ding. Okay, right. X-Love, Beset. Deserve, Beset. Set. Spike. Stang. Tangy. Oh my god, I'm going to have to close the window in a second. This is ridiculous. Unfortunately, Daniela is not Mia Talius. I'm sure I could interact with Mia Talius. To be honest, though, a lot of them won't do it in a formal environment. So that Daniela only really had a chance at it because it was just sort of shouting at me, and sometimes I don't take it by the scruff of its neck. It's actually the first time I've debated that Maddie girl about 3 or 4 times, and one of the times she just made it a nuisance because she behaved like that woman. The final time I did it, I just took it by the scruff of its neck. I think I realized what I needed to do, but yeah, she was a bit of a botherum. Oh, I forgot to turn one of my lights on. Do you listen to Omar Suleiman? No. Are you going to talk about Canada tariffs? We're all worried about it. It's interesting how... Yeah. No, I am going to talk about the Canada tariffs, definitely. Okay, sorry, right. Beset on all sides. X-Love, Soul, Heal. Ooh. Heal, Soul, Face. Deserve. Serve, Spike. Oh, those Jobber, Kayfabe, Heel, Face, Pro Wrestling. What is Kayfabe? Kayfabe? What is that? Pro wrestling lingo. What do these words mean? What do these words mean? I have no idea. X-Love, Deserve, Pike, Piker, Soul. I was thinking it might be that. Set, serve, spike, let. No, it's tennis. It's tennis. That's what it is. These are all tennis terms. That's it. I thought it was volleyball too. It's tennis terms. Letter homophone. I didn't even get that. D, X, I. Oh my god. And then what's this? Fish, pike, mullet, salt. What's a tang? What is a tang? No debates today. No. We won't do any debates today. Oh, God, Jesus Christ. Where did you get this idea that... Do you think, like, I'm regularly listening? Hold on, I'll tell you some YouTube channels that I'm subscribed to, okay? Oh. Oh dear. MGH. CBE store. Box to Box Show. I don't even know what that is. Deji. Matthew Santoro. Drew Binsky. Bundesliga. Snag 2 times. No idea what that even is. Gonth. Hova. Mike Zero. Stiko, who's an ex-CS professional. What Culture Wrestling? What Culture? Real Rejects. ROG Global. Syria A. Vital CSGO. FIFA. Opulent Halo, whose bio reads, "Hello, I am a gamer." Jesus Christ. Yeah. Behave. I got very sweaty, slippery feet as well today. Okay, right. Let's oh my god. Wait, I have some wisdom, which this is secret wisdom that is not normally for the Goyim. This is the kind of wisdom that some of you probably wouldn't even treat with much significance. It is titled, "What Happens If a Crocodile Eats a Jew During Shabbat?" Rabbi Mizrahi unpacks it. So this is the kind of wisdom that we're being blessed by.
To you in Orlando or in Fort Lauderdale, a crocodile can wait for you next to your car. You get up in the morning, you come out with your tefillin, standing 2 steps from you. Crocodile is, you can scream all you want. You don't have to hope he's not hungry. If he's hungry, open his jaws, swallow the entire you in 1 second, goes into his body.
Also, is that true? It would have to be a very big crocodile to swallow like a you in one.
There is a question in Ilchot Shabbat, laws of Shabbat, if a crocodile swallowed a Jew, if you're allowed to kill the crocodile to get the body out of his stomach on Shabbat. The fact that he's dead, there's no argument about it. He's dead already. After a few minutes inside, he's dead. So if he's dead already, what is the point of killing the crocodile? You're not allowed to kill animals on Shabbat. It's like lighting fire. You're violating Shabbat. You're allowed to desecrate Shabbat to save the life of a person. But if the person is already dead, the question now that you have to ask for the dignity, for the honor of the body, are you also allowed to desecrate Shabbat? Because what honor? If you wait until Saturday night, 10 hours, the crocodile will digest the entire Jew, and there is no more Moshe. And then you know.
I mean, this is the kind of wisdom that we're not normally given access to and what the internet has provided us. But as I watch this, I think this is the kind of stuff that we need religious figures for. Not for decisions about whether we should go and like colonize the Americas or something, or justify, you know, or justifying the colonization of Palestinian land or the slaughter of people who don't believe in your religion. We need to know what would happen if a Jewish guy was eaten by a crocodile. Yeah, I'm well aware. I don't think crocodiles are going to swallow you whole. I don't think that's going to happen. I also think he means an alligator if it's in Florida, right? Or are there crocodiles too in Florida?
Find few pieces like chickens, you know. What are you going to do? You want to have a grave, no? So the answer, you're not allowed to desecrate Shabbat to save the body, but you're allowed to do it by using a goy. So if you get a policeman, he has a gun.
This is the wisdom that you guys needed to follow. You guys needed to follow this kind of wisdom and work out whether you needed to go and do this kind of stuff to help prevent scenarios like this. Rabbi Mizrahi needs you. He needs your help.
Something, tell him he just swallowed a person, give them 1 bullet to the head, then after Shabbat you open the stomach, you get him out.
So, as it turns out, that's Rabbi Mizrahi bestowing us with wisdom that otherwise we wouldn't have soon known. God, I will say, the No Politic Here channel has been bothering me recently. Between a bunch of idiotic Israelis who are just commenting about how Isaac and I are... this Israeli person left a comment, right? And they said, oh, you know, I wouldn't... What great historians you two are. I wouldn't let you mop up my floor. And it's like, well, I'm going to be honest here. Why would you want historians mopping your floor specifically? No idea. But yeah, the other one is just the influx of Moroccans telling us like, oh, Morocco's done nothing wrong and just nonsense like that. It's like, okay, bud. Okay, bud. If I'm in Montana, no idea. Rabbi Mizrahi said I'm his top guy. He would need you. Well, the thing is the thing is like, the thing is just like, I thought it was a Zionist channel and a Zionist safe space on No Politic Here, but they took it away after Isaac wants to bring on a new guest whose name escapes me, but he sings a song where he goes, I'm back to Tel Aviv. No, you kiss me, then you leave. Back to Tel Aviv. I'm thinking I should join you. Aliyah, please. It's a really good song. So I have to do something quickly. Just needed to hide my screen. It's called going offline on Steam. It's a process that I do not want any of you to see. You'll see my million hours. Oh, God. I swear next time Moroccans will call him Algerian agent. Oh, God. One of them was like, it's actually Algerians' fault for making the Sahrawis languish in camps. And it's like, well, I mean, that's kind of like blaming Lebanon or Jordan or Egypt or whoever, or Syria, for their like treatment of Palestinians in the camps. And there is plenty to say about that and racism against Palestinians in the societies. But like, at the same time, they're not just like in camps randomly. They're in camps because they got ethnically cleansed. But yeah, incredible things are happening in the world. Incredible things. God, I'll tell you also something that's been troubling me. I am really disinterested in GTA 6. I don't know if anyone cares about it here, but it is the least interesting thing to me in the world. I cared about GTA 6 when I was young, GTA 5 when I was like 11. I remember how goated that was getting it and playing it. But now, just looking at people being so hyped, like, yeah, I can't wait for it. It's like, sure, but I think there's just better games. I guess it's a big time sink because it has the online, but I don't know. I always thought Red Dead was more interesting than GTA. And I don't, by the way, that's not even like an indictment of Rockstar Games. Might be the only global south country where the diaspora are more based than the natives. Oh. It just seems like, for so many people, this is the kind of stuff that, you know, this is what Rabbi Mizrahi was talking about when he says, like, oh, people are contented by stupid shit. He should be... This is what he means, GTA 6. I'm hyped and I don't have a PS6. Really, I don't know. It's never been for me. I won't judge people, but it's just like, I just don't really... Like, the fact that people are so excited over leaks and they're such a big thing, it's like, yeah... Really, is it not coming to PC for that long? If you join the American Army, you could play it for 4 full days. What does that mean? I look forward to getting my great-great-great-great-grandchildren GTA 6. It's gonna come out this year, mark my words. Why wait for the game when you can steal a Kia with a screwdriver? I probably shouldn't even mention that. I feel like I'll go to prison. Same way, also not interested in 6. Yeah, I loved GTA 5 with my friends, but the thought of like logging on and just playing GTA 6 every day with my friends is like, it's not going to happen. You know, I have much more important things like discussing what happens if a Jew gets eaten by a crocodile with Rabbi Mizrahi. Always take ages to come to PC. Yeah, that is true. Army has a recruitment initiative to allow... No, it does not. Is that true? Army recruitment. Here's something that would be people... oh my god, that is true. Army unit offers soldiers re-enlisting 4-day pass to play GTA 6. What a promising situation when your way of driving recruitment is just you can play GTA 6. Although apparently recruitment into the US military is actually on the up. Have you seen the Man Bear Pig episode of South Park where they have the opportunity to stop global warming, but they have to give up Red Dead 2, and so they say global warming stays? No, I don't remember that, but I have seen it. Anyone watch Prof. Dave's? No, but I did see some video, like a clip from it. It's interesting that you mentioned that. I'll see if I can find it. Hold on.
Then there is the Groyper husband threatening Destiny over an online affair with his wife Britt and lewd photos of his daughter. I'll let this other guy explain it, a former Destiny pal named Connor.
So if anyone wants the video, I'll link it here. It's just, you know, I don't want to get demonetized 10 seconds into my stream, or at least I'd rather not be demonetized. But in this video, the only reason I played it there is this Connor guy, apparently he was really, really tight with Destiny, and then Destiny was like apparently doing age play with some Groyper far right guy's wife, like babysitter role play and like step parent role play. I don't know. I also saw some video of the guy, and I'll once again make this point. I said it the other day, I'm sure. How do I get my drafts? There we go. I had a great chest and tricep day this morning. I just did chest this morning, but my hands are bothering me so much. One of the first days where I've just had like pure pain in my hands. No idea what caused it. But I just want to show you this.
The Hornet's Nest by doing a particularly slanderous live stream about me, accusing me of being a Jew.
Slanderous?
Hating neo-Nazi. It's called Professor Dave Goes...
Okay, I don't think I ever accused him of being a neo-Nazi. I'm just pointing out that the rhetoric he's using is neo-Nazi rhetoric. The deception and self-victimization are like the two big tenets of like neo-Nazi criticism, but I don't think he's a neo-Nazi. I think he's a fucking
You do realize, like, the self-victimization that comes from Nazism was like, yep, Jewish people have brought us persecuting them for simply being Jewish on themselves. And they're like, oh, they just make themselves the victim. Whereas in this case, it's like, no, Israel commits war crimes and then purports that it is anti-Semitic to criticize those war crimes. And please spare me this whole thing that apparently Israel just doesn't pretend that all criticism. There's like a meltdown over Mark Ruffalo, like talking a little bit. Oh, actually, I'm going to talk about that today. I probably should have mentioned. But yeah, it's just like, oh, it's neo-Nazi rhetoric. It's obviously not, but do you notice how these people are so clued up on neo-Nazi rhetoric, dog whistles, when it comes to Israel, but saying the N-word and stuff to them is all Gucci. Behaving weirdly around women is all Gucci. Behaving like creepily around fans, kinda, all Gucci. But yeah, I don't know. I find this weird. I don't also know why you'd want to watch someone like half-heartedly do this and just also play like some video game at the same time. I don't even know what he's fucking playing. Looks like some kind of game that's not for me, not for people like myself. Dave's wife is Pallian. What? Going so far to protect Jewish people, he's literally a fedora-wearing angry Reddit mod on r/atheism. It's not just Jewish. It's not just about that. Destiny is racist. Like, Destiny privately says the N-word and writes manifestos about why he should be able to say the N-word, when it's pretty evidently making a group of people who experience a lot larger persecution, especially in the country that he lives, than Jewish people do. Palestinian. Yeah, I assumed it was Palestinian. I just don't know why you did Pal-Ian. I just don't know why you did that. No, I mean, is Palestinian censored now? I think it's pretty evidently not censored. I know you were asking, but it's pretty evidently not censored because there's like 3 or 4 people sent it in a row. Also, Ultra is the new tanky. Yeah. I also... By the way, I enjoyed the video of... Did any of you see, like, Lonabox debating that soy pill guy? It's pretty crazy. I don't know if any of you have seen it. That soy pill guy seems like... I mean, he might be a bit libbed out, but he seems fine, you know, like... Or at least not as sort of mental on Palestine-related stuff as certain people who make YouTube videos, which is unfortunately a lot of people. Like, okay, I can guarantee you, if either Destiny or Lonabox is live today, they'll be doing apologia for this. Okay, I'm sure some of you have seen this story. So, Israel Katz is talking about how he needs to stop kites, and like prevent kites from flying over. Because, and the reason they'll justify it is because everyone is saying today, okay, oh, Israel's punishing people for flying kites. And then historically, they'll be like, oh, well, actually, Palestinians flew kites and they're incendiary, so Israelis have a right. Listen to this guy. Vic Dead Generations. Oh, this is a joke. I thought I recognized this account. Mr. Nathaniel, I enjoy your work, but I have to push back on this flip commentary. For Israelis, kites evoke the paraglider, which has unfortunately become an anti-Semitic symbol after 2023. So it's reasonable that Israeli authorities would take this seriously. Obviously, he's joking. The reason that anyone would justify it with his incendiary kites. But yeah, it's just... it's Factorio, which makes me sad because I love that game. Nice. It looks like a game beyond my comprehension. Yeah, no, Israel historically, people did fly incendiary kites over, but I'm going to be honest, I have a lot less of a problem with an incendiary kite, and I think Palestinians should fly incendiary kites over into Israel, but the thing is that, flying incendiary kites over into Israel to these people is justification for Israelis flying a fucking F-15 fighter jet, well, F-35. An F-35 fighter jet. Sorry, someone just sent me a post. Oh, I'll talk about that in a bit. And I know, like, from watching, I watched a couple of Soy Pill videos when he was like, when he previously was around Destiny. No, Lonabox, not Destiny. I don't know if he has any sort of relationship. And his videos were, like, fine. He made a good video about, like, what was it called? Conservative Netflix is a scam. I kind of wanted to see what kind of videos he made. Charlie Kirk was a racist. I'm sure they're fine. Like, I don't know how politically aligned fully we are. Probably seems like a decent guy. But it's crazy because much of what Lonabox claims and people like him claim is that they're like just reasonable and right thinking on Palestine. But when you watch someone who's kind of like pretty, standard, like libbed up sort of, I don't know how libbed up he is. I genuinely don't. I haven't watched enough. So, okay, when you watch someone who's like a YouTube leftist talking to one of these people about Palestine, they come across as like really, really... It just shows you how right-wing those people are actually when it comes to Palestine. You've seen the lady, the woman who killed her 3 children. I don't know much about it. Who's Kyle? Kyle Kalinske praises Destiny because he liked Destiny as a racist. I can't repeat that word. Yes, and after Destiny called Curly conspiracy theorists for reporting on GHF massacres. Ugh. The kites weren't incendiary, they were inflammatory. Yeah. Previously, kites were incendiary, but it's just like a response to... There was some Sarah Roy piece that I really wanted to read about it, where they were talking about it. Refa Alaria's poem. Yeah, you're right. It didn't make me think of that, but that is a great point. The second you mention it, it invokes the same kind of thing. Just didn't think of that today. But great point. I'm getting fucking messages up on LinkedIn. Hold on. I'm not responding to someone on LinkedIn, by the way. Today I learned kites can be inflammatory. No, kites can be incendiary. You can make like burning kites. I don't know how you do it, but once again, I'm going to be honest. There's like the Intifada. You are trying to compare, like even during the second Intifada, which is militarized. Obviously, the Israelis were worse. They just used specific instances to point out and portray Palestinians as barbarous. Did you see Elon's lawyer defending AI porn as free speech? No, I didn't. I did not. I did not see that. It sounds repugnant, but it's Elon Musk's lawyer. I'm sure it's one of the highest paid lawyers in the world that is trying to fiddle around. Some of my friends in academia are trying to be LinkedIn influencers, and it's embarrassing. Nah, I appreciate it with some things. It depends how much of a LinkedIn final boss you become. If you become like a straight up LinkedIn final boss who just keeps on talking, it's just... Oh, God, some of the people I'm friends with on there just... Well, some of the people... No, it's not even people I'm friends with, just shit I say. Shrek 2 got banned in Israel because the Hebrew dub made a joke about an Israeli... What? Shrek 2 banned. Shrek 2 banned in Israel. Was described as sounding like a strangled cat yesterday. Won a keep route against the blockbuster Shrek 2 because the Hebrew version implies that he's castrated. David D'Or obtained an injunction barring the film from being shown in Israel after his daughter said classmates who had seen it were making fun of her. By the way, would other countries do that? That feels like so overly censorious. The film intends to present me as a eunuch, Mr. D'Or said. That is crazy. Yeah, I know as well. Israeli society missing out on Shrek 2 is perhaps very deserved. I'm not sure they should be allowed it. I don't know. I didn't see what Professor Dave was up to. Did he upload another video? Everything is crumbling for Destiny and Pangburn. I don't know. I just see all these people who are saying, like, fact-checking Professor Dave's hit piece on me. Great. I'm sure these people are doing fantastic fact-checking. Israel in the current state doesn't deserve to enjoy Shrek 2. They especially didn't deserve it back then as well. Pan shit all the time for silly Yeah, I do know that about China, but what I mean is China is already considered quite a censorious place. The reason I know it about China is because of Dota 2. Wraith King. China has like a different version of Wraith King where his face is covered with a mask. So Wraith King is this sort of skeleton hero in Dota. And he looks different. So in China, it looks like... Oh, I can't see the Chinese version. But the Chinese version's different. It wears a mask because he can't show his bones. It's too scary. Ban Shrek for the Donkey Dragon. But people also, the other thing would say that in China's already considered, and I think you'd admit this, by Westerners, as a very censorious regime, whereas Israel likes to pride itself on being this liberal democracy that's like us. So... I don't know. It just feels like, is that something that we're regularly doing in the UK? Films banned in the UK. What are films that are banned in the UK? Okay, let's have a look. Okay, let's go to the 2000s. Oh my god. We banned a lot of films here. Cannibal Holocaust. That is a pretty... that film has actual... I guess some other films do too. Apocalypse Now has it in. Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2. BBFC rejected a UK video release in 1987 after the distributor refused to edit a double murder scene and shots of topless women being killed. The film was passed uncut in 2020. Visions of Ecstasy, International Gorillas, characterized as a sadistic criminal mastermind. They wouldn't let us watch this film mocking Salman Rushdie for being a criminal mastermind. Reservoir Dogs was banned in the UK. Kickboxer 4, The Aggressor. What on earth is Kickboxer 4, The Aggressor? BBFC banned the treatment. Oh my god. Bum fights. A lot of these films perhaps do need to be banned. This one, bum fights. Why on earth? I don't know if you really are live, But why on earth, and I'm not going to allow that comment, why on earth would you post in someone else's Twitch chat that is talking about politics? I am live, check me out. Like, what do you think someone's going to watch you from here or want to watch you? Your name is ISIS Too Tough. Like, you're playing Roblox. All Tarantino movies are evil. Yeah, let's ban that. Should have been banned everywhere due to the tipping. I've not seen Reservoir Dogs, to be honest. UK censor the Chinese version. Actually, I shouldn't have told you that guy. I shouldn't have told you that guy's live. They're because now you're all gonna watch him. Guys, do not go and watch him. You've got to watch me, or else I'll put it in members only mode, and only members will be allowed to speak. We already have a state rep depicting witchcraft and magic. I don't want them to ban depicting witchcraft and magic because I want to do I want to do witchcraft and magic. Smallest content creator on YouTube, only democratic YouTuber in the entire platform. What does that mean? Was wondering the same thing, Politic. No, his name is not Isist. How rare and unique. Yeah, no one's ever played Roblox before. Yeah, I mean, that bum fights... I think I vaguely know what bum fights is. It's pretty gross. Yeah. Have you seen this video? Have you seen this video of Mitch McConnell? So, on the June the 4th... just before Mitch McConnell was disappeared. Watch this video of him. I have to mute it because there's music on it. They're playing that song that goes, "If you're lost and alone, then you will find me time after time." So Mitch McConnell is sat here in the image. I know it can be pretty difficult to see. Watch this. This is 20 hours, apparently. He doesn't move. Like, all you can see is him occasionally moving his head. But, like, look how much more the guy next to him is moving around. I mean, it's pretty evident that this guy is not well. Mitch McConnell. Let me see. Mitch McConnell, eerie, shows him barely moving for just 10 days. I'm sure this is real. I mean, he's just sat there. It doesn't seem unbelievable. People say it's 20 hours. Hold on. Mitch McConnell. Mitch suffering from pneumonia. He popped a Werther's original at one point. Time after time, and my picture. Time after time. I bet every minute is like a week to him. He's dreaming entire lifetimes. Yeah, you're probably right about that. Maybe he's doing something sick under the desk. Well, his hands are up here, though. So he can't be cranking it or something. It is incredible. 200,000 base salary to do nothing. Someone said they were Weekend at Bernie's-ing him. Even corpses move more. He should be in a hospital bed being periodically moved by a nurse. What is he doing on the floor? Matter of fact, what is he doing in the corporeal realm? Hold on. I mean, I think the thing is not that I give a shit about McConnell, but does this constitute as elder abuse? No, because the entire American system relies on politicians that are this old. I guess it's just great to have someone who's like this old and just sort of have them sit around and to puppeteer them. Actually, you know what? That probably does constitute elder abuse technically, because I don't think someone like him can be competent enough to be, you know, you wouldn't want... Look, if you were Mitch McConnell's family, you'd probably want power of attorney. It took him out to Piddle. I take back my 3 dogs and I replace it with lizards. It's about 17 lizards in a trench coat. What about his head? Least geriatric US senator. He's abusing others more than anyone else can abuse him. That is true. Yeah, hence why I don't think Sophie has much sympathy for him. God, also, you want to see a crazy video? I don't know. It's from Face the Nation. So this is Byron Donalds, who I can't... So Byron Donalds, I'm only aware of his existence because James Fishback was the guy who ran against Byron Donalds, and he kept calling him Byron, obviously as sort of like a racist thing. And obviously Fishback was a massive racist, and Fishback was pretty evidently like a genuine anti-Semite who really moved on to that because he thought it would be popular. He used to be hanging around with Barry Weiss and stuff, and then he, yes, but yeah. So he used to be, so he was running against him. But anyway, Fishback used to be like pro-Israel and stuff, and then he switched up and was like anti-Israel kind of stuff. But the other thing about this is this Byron guy is just as bad as him. Sorry, I called him Byron. I knew I was going to do that at least once. But this Byron guy, listen to this. He's just as racist as Fishback, by the way.
Nearly all of Florida is below the 95% immunization rate for herd immunity for measles. So is your message to Florida parents, get your kids vaccinated against that one?
No, actually, my message to Floridians and quite frankly to Americans is the reason why we have seen a measles outbreak in certain parts of the country is because of rampant illegal immigration into the United States from the previous administration.
Truly incredible to cook up a justification for the rising measles rate that relies on illegal immigration.
Before Joe Biden came to office, when our borders were basically secure, Margaret, we've seen the outbreaks in El Paso, Texas, in Southwest Florida, where I live, and many other parts, where you know that you have a situation. People have come into the country illegally, have not had that vaccination schedule, and not the ones today on young kids that parents do have concerns about. I'm talking about previous ones where people weren't even getting them to be
like, I'm sorry, this kind of stuff is just spreading conspiracy theories that it is unvaccinated immigrants who are causing, you know, disease in your country, when that is so evidently untrue that it is directly a result of the behavior of the US government and people like Kennedy and Trump who've fed into conspiracy theories about vaccines and such, and then just blaming immigrants. It's racist as shit, but of course the issue is these people are just like, you know, Fishback was quite rude about Jewish people, so that's wherein the problem lies.
Measles vaccine or mumps and rubella. So the key thing is, number one, you got to control immigration into your country. You can't have an entire a segment of people, more than 10 million, come into your country without that vaccination schedule. That's how you end up having...
Sorry, I thought that wild horses thing was just a conspiracy or some nonsense that someone had gotten from Twitter. Not necessarily you, I just saw it earlier from somewhere, I don't even remember where, and I was like, okay, this is just going to be someone saying something. Apparently this is true, that Trump is sending wild horses to the slaughter. Run free through desert mountains. 68 had never been saddled or corralled. Then the federal government rounded them up with helicopters, tens of thousands of other Mustangs in an attempt to control wild populations. The horses were held for years in a feedlot in Idaho while the government tried to find them what it called loving homes. Whether it was... So they just sent them to be slaughtered and eaten. Where does that meat even go? I mean, I'd have to read this to find out where the meat went, but what do they do with the meat? Where are they sending it? Like, of course, that story, like, it's pretty grotesque, and obviously horses are a pretty animal. Quite often I err on the side of caution of, like, people having such an affection for horses, and I always find it a bit, you know, I eat meat. I just often don't... I do appreciate the things when people are like, oh, it's a bit hypocritical to eat meat and then feel so much sympathy about this. But, I mean, to talk about, like, Trump's other fucked up policies, yeah. Yeah. And that's not to say you shouldn't feel upset about it. I just mean I quite often feel a bit like, you know what I'm trying to say? That it feels a bit hypocritical in that, like, I eat meat, you know? So. Likely so there can be data centers built on that land. Quite possibly, yeah.
Some of these outbreaks. And so that's number one. But number two, and I will tell you, we could talk vaccinations, but the real issue in healthcare is the cost for Americans and the cost for Floridians. And we have already seen that the regulatory framework of the Affordable Care Act is driving up costs on every American. And that's what I want to stay focused on as the next governor of Florida.
Okay, so you want vaccinated immigrants.
I didn't see, by the way, Soph, I saw what you said about Abby Gabe. I haven't seen that. Afternoon, Chris. Are you excited for the many months of rain coming soon? Yeah, I guess to an extent. Can destroy ecosystems where they aren't native. Yeah, I mean, I don't doubt that that's true. I was in the news for burying tens of thousands of chickens alive because they couldn't feed them. What? That is fucking crazy. What, where she's talking to Byron? The horses are native.
La Boo.
Yeah, I mean, I heard, thanks for the €2, Marcus. As always, thank you for supporting the channel, goated, and not asking for any disgusting things. But, yeah, Chenk's policy, you did mention something disgusting. Chenk's policy on horses is worse. I did hear something about this. I did hear something. Something to do with, like, maybe justifying some kind of inappropriate behavior. Native, but that was way back then. The horses of today are not native to America. I don't know enough about whether these horses are native or not. In Europe, we don't eat horse because it had been banned by the church at some point. Interesting. Yeah, it's like dogs in certain countries. You know, people are always like, dogs become a problem if you have a huge population of wild dogs. But then again, in Istanbul, where people just sort of feed all the cats, it's not really a massive issue. Those cats are pretty much wild, but they're kind of, I guess they're domesticated in the sense of everyone feeds them. What is even going on with Mitch McConnell? Sorry, to go back to that. Early life was socially conservative. I demand you eat pineapple pizza on stream. Radical Caffeine, thank you for the 8 SAR. I don't know, mate. I don't know if I want to eat pineapple pizza. I don't really care for sweet and salty things. I love sweet things. Turkey countries often do eat horses. Yeah. You know, it's quite a taboo here, but I guess if you ate kind of crappy ready meals in the UK between a certain period of time, you've probably eaten a considerable amount of horse, so yeah. But hello, Arun. Good to see you. Italians eat horse. No, I know, the strawberry pasta is first, don't worry. I'm going to do that at the end. I'm going to do it at the... Ow! I'm going to do it on the 1st if I'm streaming that day. What day is the 1st? Would you rather have a pet buffalo? Would you rather have a pet... Sorry. Would you rather have a pet buffalo or a pet bison? I have no idea. Which one? Well, with buffaloes, you can make buffalo sauce, so I guess buffalo. The cat thing is a W for Istanbul. Unironically, the main reason I am an Islamo-Bolshevist. Fair. That's a good reason to become an Islamo-Bolshevist. I found the timestamp. Did you? Thank you. I'll watch it.
I want to ask you about something you were also out on a limb on, and that was 5 years ago this week, 13 service people, 170 Afghans were killed in the attack on Abbey Gate during that chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan.
In where? Abbey Gate? Or Abbey Gabe? What's she talking about?
And you were very critical of President Biden and how he carried that out. And you said...
Incredible. Used for pet food, but when culled from a helicopter, they just go to waste. Well, it was seemingly saying they corralled them from a helicopter, like got them to go elsewhere. Between horses and cows and chickens. Oh, Lordy, I hope you're well. eating chickens and cows and not horses, as if it's... Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying, parasitic, that I don't feel like a lot of people are so incensed by this but eat meat, and I just feel like it's pretty tough to stand on. Not to say that it's like I would rather not see animals like just mindlessly slaughtered for the fun of it, and that there is some kind of difference in that, but my God, this kind of stuff of just the like... This kind of the way we behave and the things we eat, it's pretty, yeah. Can also kill them from stress. True. That is a good point. Only other like weird little tweets I had were this one, which is truly. No, actually, there's a couple. So the guy who exposed or played a role in exposing exposing Jason Arde, Nathan Kofnas, has uploaded an interview from Flemish State Television, and I'll prime you with this message. It is rather extraordinary why anyone supporting Kofnas would post this, let alone Kofnas himself. Watch this.
We gaan langs bij Nathan Kofnas.
De
meest gehate academicus aan de UGent en sinds gisteren preventief geschorst.
Well, they've shut me out of my email account. They've banned me from campus.
De brief van de rector bevat een aantal heel concrete elementen en beschuldigingen aan Kofnas' adres.
Things that are being pointed out is comments you made about Professor Arde. For example, you called him mentally disabled.
He called himself cognitively impaired. What I said was very similar to what he and his own supporters say.
Ghent University also points out in the letter that you called Jason Arde a worthless scholar.
Yeah, well, he is. That's why the university placed him under investigation.
I bet you one thing. I've not seen anyone who was taught by Jason Arde talk about it, but listening to his talks, he at least had some charisma. Academics like this, who think that they have some divine right to teach you, I bet this guy is one of the worst lecturers imaginable. Listen to him speak. He's a little repugnant, little horrible character. But it gets worse.
And why there's a scandal.
Professor Arde is dead now. Some hold you personally responsible for his death.
So now that's a very tricky question, right? I did take an action which set off a series of events that led to a tragic outcome. If I say that...
It's really interesting as well to listen to him say that, because most people who are like, whose work or behavior contributes to someone's death and they don't directly do it, or an atrocity, they're like, well, I didn't intend that. This guy just takes ownership, and it wouldn't surprise me if he doesn't really give a shit at all. Like, listen to that deeply weird way to interact with it.
I'm not responsible, then it sounds like kind of I don't appreciate the consequences of what happened. If I say I am responsible, I mean, what are the implications of that?
Some accuse you of taking pleasure in his downfall.
I had zero interest in Jason Arde. I had no ill will for him. I wanted him to stay professor and live his best life. This was about DEI and Cambridge. Arde was just incidental to that.
Incidental, but now he said, of course, that you in some way underestimate the human toll this would take.
The fact is, he was an influential, powerful person who sought power and fame. You have to be allowed to critique such people, even if there's some risk that they will take it the wrong way or feel very bad about it.
You said in a podcast interview, and I quote, "After the revolution, I will be the head of the Department of Eugenics and Race Science at Harvard." What did you mean by that?
It was a joke. I made a joke.
This is the most incredible part of the interview.
I didn't even realize the camera was rolling at the time. So, Okay, you saw the worst thing I say when I think no one is listening, that it's not being recorded. That's it.
And is it really a joke?
Well, I mean, the joke is based on some kind of truth, which is that I think that there should be a science of race. I think that academia should study race, or should study hereditarianism.
So it's not actually a joke?
Well, the joke is that I'm going to be head of the Department of Eugenics and Race Science. People are taking it too seriously.
The thing is like, that's not a joke. And I think it's pretty evident that there's not a joke here. I will, lacks headroom, I will remove, can someone remove that message just because I can't encourage violence at all? Could someone remove that?
In my opinion.
On social media, there's a...
It is also, yeah, I don't know why you would post a video of this guy just saying, why you would post a video of yourself where you admit this thing that has been one of the core things that people have found pretty gross about you is just, yeah.
A lot of personal attacks aimed at Rector Petra de Sutter, rather viciously attacking her identity as a trans woman.
If somebody has misgendered Rector de Sutter, I had nothing to do with that. And I'm getting harassed, I would assume, a lot more than Rector de Sutter.
Are you?
I'm flooded with death threats. Just countless every time I open my email. This is an example of hate mail, since you asked for the most recent. Stay safe, Kike. Me, I am the Jew in this case. You know, just don't tell people my exact address, and I think I'll be okay.
Like, obviously, yeah, that's an incredibly bigoted thing to say to someone. Simultaneously, you are someone who believes in race science.
Just to be clear, it is your ambition to stay on at Ghent University, or isn't it?
Well, I'm not out to be fired. It's my job, so.
Ja, hij zegt er niet op uit te zijn.
Yeah. Oh, God. This guy's a Jewish supremacist, though. He thinks he's the master race. He's involved in some weird thing. Doesn't he know Curtis Yarvin and others? I don't know enough about his actual body of work. I don't know enough about his actual body of work. Just a gross guy. To speak, isn't he? What a horrible guy. He places Ashkenazi Jews at the top of the racial pyramid. Yeah, there's a picture of him with Curtis Yarvin and Richard Haniya. Yeah. Which is something cultural like gender. Yeah, there's no evidence for race science, is there? Does he believe in phrenology? Hegel had a very interesting response to phrenology. Hegel said that if you really believe in it, you should have your skull smashed with a hammer and then see how you feel about it. He literally believes in phrenology. I didn't know that. I know the Field Sisters have a great book called Racecraft, which I've only ever read the first 40 pages of 2 times, and then I always end up putting it down because I end up reading other things. Apparently Yuval Abraham's making another film. No Other Land director Yuval Abraham and Rachel Saw are returning with the new film Nazar, backed by Jonathan Glazer and just added to the Venice competition lineup. Shot at night on the rooftops of Tel Aviv, the film reveals in detail the system behind Israel's calculated mass killings of Palestinians in Gaza. The kind of guy who owns a pair of skull calipers. Hey, my man Elephant, thank you for the 20 NOK. Goated. Thank you for supporting the channel, as always. But yeah, I mean, I don't think you're wrong about that. Nathan Kofnas is probably sad he was born so late that he couldn't have just done the most insane experiments possible in the colonies. Oh, Matcha is gross. What book was that again? Which book? Racecraft by the Field Sisters. Oh, there's something on my screen. There's something on my screen. See this guy. I need to chill out a bit. Yeah, please don't say anything too unhinged. I understand and appreciate why people don't like him, though. He's a horrible guy. Another insane little video.
Is
Jonathan Pollard is saying some cool stuff.
Israeli legend and former spy Jonathan Pollard has announced he will join the Israel First Party led by Knesset member Sharon Haskel. This is a massive step into politics for Pollard, who actually joins us now on the broadcast to talk about this decision. Jonathan, thank you so much for joining us on the show.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. As far as Lebanon is concerned, again, we cannot allow Hezbollah to remain standing at the end of the day. I've been in favor of pushing our border, officially pushing our border north to the Awali River and not stopping until Hezbollah is completely destroyed. As far as...
I like how he's like, yeah, we should completely destroy Hezbollah, but let's also move our border massively. Something you're not allowed to do as well, by the way. And then also the other thing that he's trying to do is to eliminate Hezbollah, but surely the history of massively occupying Lebanese territory would tell you that that is a terrible idea as a means to achieve the destruction of militant resistance against you. The longer you stay there, the better that the Lebanese will get at working out ways to harm your soldiers. So, pretty insane, but of course this is Jonathan Pollard we're talking about. And isn't every Israeli... Oh, God. I don't know if any of you have seen this. Mr. Special Peace Man in Israel, Gadi Eisenkot, has come out against the two-state solution. Here you go. There is no Palestinian state, and in the government we will form, no Palestinian state will arise. By the way, what you have to realize is what's actually on battle is in the next Israeli election is how the apartheid is done, basically, whether they annex or whether they don't, and how the settlement building is done. Eisenkot and all the others believe that you should just focus on the actual settlements that you have until you can do longer plans to take more land, whereas obviously people like Ben-Gvir support taking everything in the here and now. It's actually arguably... There's normally an immediacy to fascism, is the argument made by certain people, and when it comes to Kahanism has way more of an immediate drive. It's one of the set-apart things of Ben-Gvir from everyone else.
Iran is concerned, again, this is a major threat. We shouldn't be waiting on the United States. I mean, I don't know what President Trump has up his sleeve. I mean, I don't even think he knows at this point. And I've identified what's called a third option for us. And that option is to go it alone, Israel first. And we have the resources, we just don't have the willingness to go ahead and take Iran off the map, so to speak.
By the way, Israel does not have the ability to take Iran off the map, so to speak. It's pretty evident that it does not. They tried this at the start of the Iran war. Anyone telling you otherwise is lying. It was very obvious what Israel and America were trying to do. Their goal was to collapse the Iranian government. They literally, there is a video of Lindsey Graham where he's like, I'm thinking in 3 weeks I'm going to be in those Iranian cities. We just got to get one of them to fall. Yeah, and they tell you, no, we didn't try our best to make it fall.
We have to do this. We have to destroy the IRGC, not Iran proper, but the IRGC, Hezbollah and Hamas, in order to prepare for the next war. I hate to put it that way, but Turkey and Egypt are coming up next as our major strategic threat.
By the way, I am also genuinely perplexed by how dumb these people are. Like, what are you talking about? What he's up to? Like, what are you talking about? What the fucking... What Egypt are up to? Egypt are really important to Israel's security in the region. Egypt hasn't had a direct confrontation with Israel since, what, 1973? And this guy's like, yep, we need a big war.
In the north and the south. And unless we have all these other fronts eliminated by that time, we're going to be in a terrible situation.
after everything you've been through, and I can share that on a little bit more of a personal note. I've had a poster of you up in the house begging to bring you home after everything that you've gone through over in the United States.
What was Pollard stealing? Was it nuclear secrets? It's not really a case that I'm that familiar with. He was an intelligence officer, so he was just spying for Israel. I thought it was nuclear secrets, but it's not, is it? Definitely not nuclear secrets, just general intelligence. Kind of crazy that he was in prison for such a short period of time as well.
From the intelligence world now to entering politics, what's one thing that you think that might surprise people who only know the public version of Jonathan Pollard and not the personal version? What would surprise them?
I actually have a sense of humor.
Oh, God. What's this? Why does he post this? Why has he posted that? He's leaking US intelligence. Yeah, I knew it was US intelligence. I just can't remember. I just can't remember exactly what it was. I don't think it was nuclear secrets. But this scumbag likely wants revenge to Moses. Yeah, but the problem, I think one of the problems with Israel as well is Israel is just constantly obsessed with wars. And if one of the things that will destroy it is just its inability not to go to war constantly, like, I think that's what it comes down to. Was a nuclear secrets. He tried to sell it to other countries. Are you sure it was nuclear secrets? What the fuck is a founder badge? What's a founder badge? It was one of the first. Oh, you were one of the Prime subscribers, the first ever Prime subscribers. Wow, awesome. Thank you so much, as always. I can't. It doesn't mention nuclear. Doesn't say. You should do a Omegle with Israelis. I don't know. I don't know. Sorry, I'm just giving myself some more water. A little bit thirsty. He's a Zionist. Who's a Zionist? I don't even know. Hello, Fake Silver. It's much more when I have loads and loads and loads and loads and loads of water that I end up needing pee breaks, but I've not had that much at all. I haven't had that much. The debates are more than enough. Yeah, I know. I probably won't do that. It's called, it's not even, it's called Omegle. You have to have your camera on, so you can't like just crank it on there, which I think is the protection, but I don't think I'll be doing that. I've got to be honest. The only other thing I wanted to watch is Israel's chief rabbi. Why is this only in English? I'm looking for the, his name is Rabbi David Yosef. Okay, here you go. Hold on, I'll move myself to the top. Oh, I've accidentally moved the wrong thing. Maybe I just wasn't seeing the titles because it's the same video, but apparently it has them. Let's have a listen to what Avida Yosef is saying. No, I need you to be small.
ורק על זה לבד מגיע להם, אני אומר, שכל עזה, הקדוש ברוך הוא יחריב אותה, ואנחנו נחזור לשם. אנחנו יודעים שכשתבוא הגאולה, אז תהיה גבורה כזאת של עם ישראל מול כל האומות, קל וחומר מול האספסוף הזה, שהוא לא עם, שהם קוראים לעצמם עם פלסטיני, אבל הם לא עם. הם לא היו מעולם עם, הם לא עם, ואין להם זכויות.
I really am amazed that Ovadia Yosef, the chief rabbi of Israel, is saying that Palestinians don't have rights. He's only the Sephardic chief rabbi. Oh, former Sephardic chief rabbi, excuse me, he's no longer the chief rabbi. He's just a very significant rabbi, so don't worry. Lebanon will not be colonized, and Palestine will be free. 9 million racists will not subjugate the free people of the region. Indeed, Lemon Mint Cat, thank you for the $5. I don't think it... the only problem is just like how immense the suffering is right now. How immense the suffering is right now. I just wish there could be some kind of reprieve now. I just wish it could be... I wish it wasn't just years and years and years of this.
הזכויות הם שלנו. אני אומר להתפלל זה לא רק על גוש קטיף, זה על כל עזה, זה על כל יהודה ושומרון, על שכם, על כל המקומות. אנחנו צריכים להתפלל. אנחנו מתפללים לגאולה.
Why are there people screaming?
המשמעות של הגאולה.
Also, Ovadia Yosef, sorry, yes, it says this is not Ovadia Yosef. This is a David Yosef. Fuck, that's why. I knew I was getting the two of them confused. He is the chief rabbi. So he is chief rabbi. Yeah, Sephardi chief rabbi of Israel. Fuck, so it is right. Sorry, I was thinking about his father's Ovadia, right?
שארץ ישראל תחזור להיות שלנו, כל ארץ ישראל. עזה זה ארץ ישראל. עזה זה שלנו. עזה זה שלנו, שכם שלנו, ג'נין שלנו, כולם שלנו. אז מה שאנחנו כרגע צריכים לעשות זה להתפלל.
To be honest, though, this guy has absolutely no aura. They should make Rabbi Mizrahi their chief rabbi. Like, this guy couldn't deal with issues such as crocodiles. Wow. Fangirling over this guy, I have no idea. Kovnes, whilst being pro-studying race science, he was literally publishing papers called The Anti-Jewish Narrative. Maybe I'll check that out at some point. Thank you. Oh, actually, wait. One other Israel-related video.
Austrian leftist.
And I'm an Israeli leftist.
And this is 3 things Europeans need to hear from an Israeli leftist. 1.
This has music on. I can't show you. It's some leftists. Okay, guys, before I get into Economic D-Day... Oh, Stephen Paris. I just saw. I'm going to set that up. I promised I would the other day. Stephen Paris, thank you for the £20 donation via PayPal. Thanks for supporting the channel as always, my man. Goated. I'm just going to stick on some music. This isn't because I need to pee all the time. I just feel like I should pee before I start a segment. Okay, I'll be back in a second. Oh, you are missing out on the crocodile stuff.
أنا القدسي من البلدة القديمة، أنا من شوارع فلسطين الحبيبة. أنا القدسي من البلدة القديمة، أنا من شوارع فلسطين الحبيبة. أنا من القدسي، أنا من القدسي، أنا من القدسي، أنا من القدسي، أنا من القدسي من البلدة القديمة. أنا من شوارع فلسطين الحبيبة. أنا من القدسي من البلدة القديمة. أنا من شوارع فلسطين الحبيبة. أنا من القدسي، أنا من القدسي، أنا من القدسي، أنا من القدسي. في الشوارع، في المزارع، في المصانع، في الطرقات. في الشوارع، في المزارع، في المصانع. المصانع في الطرقات سأبقى أناضل لتحرير الأرض والإنسان سأبقى أناضل لتحرير الأرض والإنسان أنا من القدس 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 بالبلدة القديمة أنا من شوارع.
Also, if any of you were interested in what's going on with Maddie, that opinionated girl, I recently sent her a video of AI Charlie Kirk going, swiping cards and stacking chips, I saw you sinking ships. And unfortunately, she hasn't opened the message. She is currently in Poland touring Auschwitz, so hopefully she's just been otherwise engaged, but I would love to hear her reaction on the video of Charlie Kirk singing about like an AI version of Rubbers by Phoenix Flexen, but I don't know if she'll be interested. I really don't know if she'll be interested. It's a good video, but yeah. That's why you guys can't have... That's why we need data centers. Leave. Do not come. We're not having Warzy Lab. This rando is just trying to argue with us out of nowhere. Who's arguing? What's going on? How many views to do a full cover? Would it get me demonetized? However much £20 worth is in subs, because that's how much they normally pay me in, like, well, depends how many viewers I get. I think it also just ran pre-roll ads on YouTube, on Twitch, but I don't know how many you'd have to pay me to do Phoenix Flexen. Would you like me to do that, because it would make you more comfortable to listen to it, if I sung it rather than listening to the AI version? Maybe a karaoke night on Twitch only. Yeah, but like, I can't imagine just sitting there and singing to you guys. That'd be crazy for me. I do like that kind of stuff, though. Imagine that and a few beers. That would go hard. That would go really, really, really hard. Okay, right, let's find out about Economic D-Day. So, in case you haven't heard... Oh my god, this is a fucking crazy story. Scott Besant? I don't know, fuck him. Scott Besant penned an insane piece of literature, which it feels kind of more important. Like, can I share this? Okay, non-subscriber. Get sharing link. Link can be viewed 3 times. Well, I can't show it from... I don't know if I can show it. People probably have it on Twitter. I don't know if I can show it. It feels so important that it shouldn't be just locked behind a paywall in the Financial Times. But the FT has pulled up this video of Scott... Well, they have a letter from him. There are some really insane parts, such as where he basically starts talking about how President Donald Trump and the overwhelming might of our military have significantly dismantled Iran's military capabilities and weakened... Wait, I'll show you. President Donald Trump and have weakened its nuclear program. Now we are entering the end game. At dawn begins an economic D-Day, the single greatest financial offensive ever marshaled against an adversary. Trump really wants some kind of like World War II moment. He's obviously not going to get that. It's obviously not going to happen at all. It is fucking insane. For 47 years, the Islamic Republic of Iran has been a malignant force in the world. With Iran, a corrupt regime has consigned what would be one of the world's strongest economies to ruin and its enterprising people to repression. And then it kind of just talks about like the standard justification slop. I don't think much has been released as of yet. Economic D-Day. But yeah... Trump is, obviously, as you can see from the picture, the thumbnail of the stream, Iran is completely collapsing, President DJT. So Mr. Trump has let us know that they're completely collapsing. Pretty insane. It seems that their plan, basically, is to just sanction people who anyone has a relationship with them. And it will be sanctioning China, but they're going to have to sanction the UAE. So, I don't know. Like, this was Trump's post from the other day. They're going to be sanctioning so many of their close allies. They're going to have to sanction China massively. They're going to have to sanction Pakistan. They're going to have to sanction UAE. They're going to just have to sanction every country. Here you go. No one has given the Islamic Republic of Iran a greater opportunity to make a deal than me. Tragically for them, they have failed to take it. Therefore, today, I am announcing the most crushing economic operation ever taken against any country. This will be an economic warfare and isolation on an unprecedented scale. Their navy is gone, their air force is destroyed, their military factories are now rubble, their currency is worthless, and their country is hanging by a thread. Today, I am also announcing that any country that allows its financial institutions, business, airports, or government entities to provide any type of lifeline to Iran will itself face tremendous economic consequences. Oil smuggling, swap lines, cash transfers, exchange houses, ship registries, front companies, it all needs to stop now. You know who you are. This will be an economic D-Day, and we need all of our allies to stand with the United States to isolate and defeat the Iran threat. These maniacs are on the ropes, and these historic measures will cripple them and their ability to project terror worldwide. And then it repeats, it goes on that Iran will never have a nuclear weapon. I mean, I'm sure this plan will last for 48 hours. The major thing is the strait is still closed. There was a sort of coat piece in the... Where was it? Okay, right. So, Rosemary Kalanick, who is the director of the Middle East program at Defense Priorities, right? What on earth is Defense Priorities? Anytime you see a name like this, you should probably realize, okay, this is probably a pretty... Okay, it's a think tank based in Washington. The article is realistic in the sense, like, as the title suggests, it's called Let Iran Control the Strait of Hormuz. Now, where I see a problem with this is... It's somewhere down here. This is freely shared by her, so it's different to the 2026 6. Here you go. Charging tolls would benefit Iran financially, but even high-end revenue estimates would leave Iran behind given the 270 billion in war damages it has suffered. If Iran collects 6 to 14 billion in transit fees annually, as some estimates suggest, it could take nearly 20 years for Iran to break even on the war. Over that span, market adjustment would diminish the importance of the Strait of Hormuz, as regional exporters constructed bypass lines and pipelines and switched to electric vehicles to reduced oil demand. Okay, a lot of assumptions here. First of all, it depends who wins the US election, because if it continues to be Republicans, it'll just be a never-ending cycle of reversing, of reversing electrification policies in favor of choosing, in favor of choosing just consistent oil. But what this also seems not to reckon with is, if Iran is collecting $6 to $14 billion, that means that there will have to be sanctions removed. Like, yeah. That definitely is not going to negatively affect the US economy, surely. I mean, already, I'm not sure I quite get this, but I understand the basics of it. Chartbook is freely available if any of you want to try and reckon with it. There is a 2-part series that has come out recently, which is called Chartbook Apocalypse Now in the Treasury market. The US, obviously I'm sure some of you heard it, the US government debt has reached 40 trillion, I think it is, or 30 trillion. Right now there's something really bad happening in the market that's seemingly a bit like 2020. Which is that they're having to interfere loads and nothing's really working as of yet. I also didn't realize how much of the US Treasury is controlled by, it is controlled by the fucking hedge funds. So something bad is afoot right now in the US. I think there was a guy talking about it who has a pretty good explanation. Let me check. His name's Henry Fudge, and he follows me, and he regularly comments on Palestine-related stuff, so he's actually pretty woke.
On Tuesday, the US 30-year Treasury yield hit 5.34%, the highest rate since 2007. And on Wednesday, Scott Bessent announced that the Treasury was engaging in liquidity operations. It's not yield controls, just liquidity operations, doubling the planned buy.
It's also to do with the fact that they're like, hedge funds are in it for the short term. Henry Fudge is a great username. I think it might actually be his name.
Buybacks of long-dated bonds. Now, the yield on the 30 years dropped about 10 basis points, yet within a day the market ate it. At the same time, the dollar index had fallen, and that's the interesting bit. Fundamentally, the long-term interest rate is just basically the short-term expected rates plus a premium for taking decades of inflation expectations, combined with interest rate and fiscal risk. Now, the Treasury can't make that risk disappear, but policy can affect which price the market uses to express it. And this week, while the Treasury leaned against the long-dated yields, the dollar weakened, inflation expectations rose, and gold started moving high.
Hello, Kurzov, first-time chatter. Thank you for stopping in.
Now, the Treasury says these are liquidity operations, and they're not officially yield curve control. And the $4 billion announced is tiny compared to the size of the market. And that is notable, but that's not the important part. The important part was what was communicated. The quote from Bessent is that the yields observed don't reflect the fundamentals, that the liquidity operations can get larger, and they can become routine. Now, broadly, the phrase is usually, don't fight the Fed. But given the scale of long-dated bond issuance from the AI hyperscalers, that fight is becoming a bit more tricky. Because while investors are wanting higher compensation for holding dollar-denominated notes, at the same time that the yield is being pushed lower by the Treasury, simply that market can be pushed elsewhere. And we seem to now be seeing it in inflation expectations and the exchange rate, as well as gold.
This is the thing that I also got from the stuff that I was reading, is basically there are questions about whether they can actually control inflation from the Iran war. They've done a pretty good job of it so far, and the only fight that Iran have categorically lost is jawboning the market. There was that short period, I'm sure some of you remember it, where Ghalibaf was trying to fiddle around with the market by doing things, but it's very evident that the US was better at that by pretending there were deals.
Even Bitcoin got smashed upwards by about 26% within the week, after seeing the dollar weakening. Fundamentally, even with the Fed intervening, the risk didn't disappear, the price just found another place to appear. Now, we've seen the extreme version of this kind of policy play out already. Japan spent decades suppressing the sovereign borrowing cost, with zero rates, quantitative easing, and eventually explicit yield curve control. And those low rates have led to a consistent carry trade, which has seen the yen be sold. Now, just 3 weeks ago, both Japan and the US intervened in the market for yen to support its value, namely as Japan was seeing rising domestic inflation coming through the ports from its weaker currency. But it's a very easy demonstrator that cheap sovereign borrowing is never truly free in the long run. But the difficulty of the US Treasury market today is slightly different, because they seem to...
I also read that some former figure in the Fed was like, yeah, the problem isn't where it's at now. Apparently 30 trillion is sustainable, which feels an incredible thing to say. The problem is yeah, hold on, I found it. Unsustainable. I think it was Powell. The level of debt is not unsustainable, Jay Powell told students shortly before stepping down as chair of the Fed. Here you go. Jerome Powell, Jay Powell, excuse me, told students shortly before stepping down as Fed Reserve earlier this year, it will not end well if we don't do something fairly soon. And I think their solution is just to fiddle around with their currency. They're molesting the money.
Be in a bit of a boxing match with the AI hyperscalers, who are now issuing debt at record-breaking levels, jumping from $28 billion a year historically, up to $121 billion for the first half of this year, and on expectation up to $220 billion.
Oh, by the way, I want to talk about the Mark Ruffalo tweet, and not because I care that much about what Mark Ruffalo is saying. And I know people will be like, oh, it's a bit lived out. Once again, I'm glad Mark Ruffalo's talking when most actors are still scared to talk about this. I don't know why they wrote Jay Powell. I thought I was being stupid there. But one thing I noticed about Mark Ruffalo's tweet got nearly 1 million likes. Nearly 1 million likes. But every time you open up Instagram, there's some video of some incredibly repugnant pro-Israel person saying something incredibly repugnant in a dog shit video with their little charisma vacuum personality, and it's got tens of thousands of likes. It seems, and they talked about this on the Radio War episode with Ian Lustig and the guys who wrote the Jewish Lobby in America, or whatever it's called, the one about AIPAC that came out recently. But they were talking about basically a lot of the billionaires that have formerly funded Israel. Miriam Adelson, she's headed that way. Her husband's already gone. A lot of these older people are going to die. It looks like what Israel and its supporters are now going for are tech oligarchs. They haven't somehow got TikTok and China. TikTok always limited pro-Palestine content. It's gotten way worse, but that seems to be more of a blanket limitation. When it comes to fucking Instagram, though, there is clearly an intentional policy to boost pro-Israel content, and that's seemingly who they'll go after now. Seemingly. I mean, YouTube seems to be botted. You really think that there's like a sudden influx of people who want to watch some shitty Mia Talias video where she's sat in her room going, oh my God, I am loving Israel. I'm loving Israel today. Oh my God. Noah Samson.
In fact, I mentioned this the other day in my previous video, that the US Treasury has stopped issuing in the 30-year region. They pulled $440 billion of planned 30-year notes, and the AI hyperscalers filled that gap with $470 billion in long-dated AI-related debt. The difficulty now is that it's easy to see that the demand is tiring. Back in February, these bond issuances from the hyperscalers were over 5 times oversubscribed. Yet by July this year, less than twice covered. And the spreads against the sovereigns in similar durations are widening. For a perfect example, Meta's last issuance for its new data center build-out was being marketed at around 7.5%. Notably quite a lot more expensive than the funding it issued for Hyperion at 6.8%. Essentially what seems to be happening is that the tail is now wagging the dog, because the AI hyperscaler debt and the treasury issuances are competing for the same pool of global institutional capital. And this has now become large enough to start affecting...
We're having an issue with the bot, so I can't actually pull up !resources.
Sovereign yield. And so now every time that Besson intervenes in the market to suppress the yield for the sovereign, the spread to the AI hyperscalers looks even more attractive. Every new intervention to suppress the 30-year yield on the US Treasury will simply make the AI hyperscaler debt running at 7.5 and higher these days look even more attractive. And what we're seeing right now is the marginal investor tiring of both. When faced with the choices of lower yields in treasuries, or some of the increasing massive credit risk occurring in the hyperscalers' debt from Amazon, Meta, and Oracle. Alternately, the other option is simply not to hold dollar-denominated assets at all. And that seems to be where the market is heading.
I'm expecting a crash because Warsh, current chair of the Fed, was an architect of the 2008 market crash, housing crash. Yeah, I mean... Making predictions about, like, there being a financial collapse, it's pretty hard. Like, it's not really guaranteed to happen at any point, and who really knows when it'll happen. But the signs don't seem to be that good from serious economists talking about this.
Looking for international and uncorrelated investments or potential inflation hedges such...
And consumers have no money to consume. Market giants are in debt and don't want to pay out investors. Investors stop investing. Everything stops. It's mostly... The only thing keeping it going is the upper 10%, right? They account for like 50% of consumer spending.
As gold. For now, it seems like the AI build-out isn't slowing down for anyone, and the yields that they're offering seem to be going on the up only. And so far, the markets seem to be pricing in the idea that these interventions are going to have to become more regular and larger. The only seeming beneficiaries, though, are the AI hyperscalers whose spreads above the sovereign, now suppressed, makes their bonds look slightly more attractive than they otherwise would be. And for the marginal investor who's leaving the US market altogether by refusing the credit risk in the hyperscalers' debt and refusing the suppressed sovereign yield, they seem to be sending their money overseas, looking for better considered safe havens, leaving the dollar weaker, the Swiss franc higher, the British pound higher, and ironically...
Yes! Mr. Fudge, that is the best news ever. Henry Fudge, we need you on the stream right now to tell everyone to invest their money in Great British pounds. I am needing Great British pounds. Tell me more. I need it to go up in price.
The biggest beneficiaries of this trade so far has been the FTSE 100, the leading index in the UK. Very ironically, given the lack of success as an IPO market,
the Chinese yuan is not a normal currency. It's artificially kept down to keep low import, right? To keep low import prices. So they keep it down and then they accumulate foreign currency reserves. So it's a bit different as a currency.
People are now seeing the UK as a very boring but wonderful hedge, with a joke from the FT recently suggesting that it's so uncool that it's become cool, simply because the index itself contains very, very little exposure to technology, mostly overweighted with oil, gas and banks. Now, the translation of all this back into English is a bit easier to understand. Got Besant's intervention, and the commentary of potential future larger and more regular interventions in this market are reducing the value of the dollar, almost subsidizing the interest rate costs of the AI hyperscalers, all at the cost of the American consumer, through potential inflation that may continue to occur, and the main beneficiaries seem to be international indices and international currencies considered slightly more safe than the US currently. Suppose for any of us that might own the foot...
You know where it does... I don't know if it'll be consistent, because gold is obviously premised on if there's crisis, and right now there seems to be quite a bit of crises, because obviously the biggest holders of gold are just going to be countries using it to protect their economy. That's why it went down recently. But, yeah, get involved in that. Get yourself some gold. This is not investment advice.
C100 ETF. We might want to group together and buy him a card and say thank you, maybe. But before we send that card... let's see how bad the shenanigans become in the AI hyperscaler bond issuance, now made slightly more attractive and relatively cheaper than they would have been because of Scott Bessant's intervention.
It's okay, economics is based on fake mathematical models. Yeah, I mean, getting this kind of stuff is kind of tough. Like, it is tough to sort of get into. I feel like I'm only basically understanding it after nearly a year of doing this. But then again, with how long it took me to understand certain things, it doesn't surprise me. Gold is pretty by pretty thing. Yeah, like, do you honestly think Smaug was a talking dragon? Do you honestly think that he wasn't someone worth listening to? Like, okay, put it like this. How many people have you heard, oh, you should invest in AI, you should invest in this, you should invest in that? You should invest in whatever. What is this video? I'm not watching that. Trump, he uses a slur, doesn't he? I'm not watching that. I bought silver again. Gold is not at the top. Get yourself some gold. And not just on paper gold. Get yourself the kind of stuff that Smaug was chilling with. Dragons are ancient and therefore wise. Yeah, I heard of a dragon that said something that got themselves in trouble, though, so maybe not all dragons are wise. He uses a cheeky little slur. Yeah, he does. I'm not playing that. Great. There was about the visas being denied. Whose? The Irish government is denying visas to Palestinian students, too. They're catering to the far right. Oh, 100%. 100%. The investment trend, you are months too late, and the other sucker. Well, once upon a time, about 5 years ago, my friend told me you should buy silver because there's only a finite amount of it in the world. And I think if I had bought it, I would have made a lot of money, but I didn't buy it. Because he used to tell me to buy a lot of things, and sometimes they were absolutely insane, but some of them were brilliant, but some of them were crap. Study up on economics and read Marx. My brain is so fried. Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of other people to read. Obviously, I'm sure Das Kapital is fantastic. If you want to read something, Todd McGowan has some great work on it, related to it, and easy to understand podcast-related stuff. If you invest in... But I've never also been really interested in... I've never really been that interested in economics, always much more political history, rather than economic history. You should invest in me. You won't get anything back, but I will be happy. You should invest in the Chris Guns, the YouTube channel. Invest when there's only a small amount of subscribers, and then one day you'll be here when there's 1 billion, and I'm doing Mr. Beast style videos. Who's that Egyptian Marxist that people love? I read something of his, which people were... Or Egyptian economist. I don't know if he's a Marxist. Okay, right. Let's get back to the economic D-Day thing. So Trump posted this looks like, I can't believe this is posted by the US president. Iran parliament speaker, we are hungry, we cannot survive. So apparently Ghalibaf has said this. Someone's asked Grok. Made essentially this statement during a meeting with Iranian and Iraqi business. He said, no matter how much military power we have, if the people are hungry and we have no financial circulation, economic growth or national production, we will not survive. Okay, so that's not what he said. The statement is, we are hungry and we cannot survive. Brilliant. Magnificent. And yes, that's the whole point. The Garda escorted far right into a library against LGBTQ plus ideology. Drew Harris, former Garda commissioner, admitted she treated the far right softly. Yeah, I know. Chris's Mr. Beast style videos putting Marcus through medieval torture for his naughty chat takes. Yeah, if he mentions Soldier F again, there'll be certain torture. Yeah. Okay, right, let's carry on with this. There was a video by CNN talking about it. I wish I could show you the Besant article. I read it on FT, but I just don't know if I feel comfortable reading a whole FT article here.
Economic D-Day. That is what Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says is coming for Iran. And it is notable that it's the Treasury Secretary more at the forefront today in the war with Iran than the Defense Secretary. Bessent holds a news conference, and in an op-ed for the Financial Times, he wrote, quote, now we are entering the end game. At dawn begins an economic D-Day, the single greatest financial offensive ever marshaled against
I'll check out Pierre Straffer.
An adversary.
Thank you.
It is part of a U.S. strategy shift nearly 6 months into the war, temporarily pausing strikes in favor of economic pressure. Let's get to CNN's Elena Treen live at the White House this morning. The president's been talking about this for some time, but today the Treasury Secretary puts it into gear.
Exactly, and he's expected to reveal the specific new measures that the Trump administration is expected to impose on Iran and really try to isolate it, particularly, of course, its economy from the rest of the world. Now, the president and other top administration officials have described this new announcement as being the most comprehensive assault on Iran thus far, of course, on Iran's economy specifically. Now, I will say that, and I mentioned this, but Bessent and Trump, what they are describing is...
What is fucking crazy about all of this is, like, Iranian people will die because of this. Like, sick people, poor people, people living in rural areas, they will die. And, you know, this is just being discussed as, like, an okay strategy because it's kind of not just bombing people right now, which is, you know, a nice feature of the world in which we live, where these kind of economic behaviors of cutting people off from the world and just making things incredibly difficult for Iranians and just average people will not even have the intended effect that the Americans want, but, you know, awesome.
Really, this new coordination that the U.S. is hoping to have with allies to try and sever all economic ties with Iran, but also have allies sever those ties as well. And you heard Bessent explain a little more of this in that op-ed. I want to read for you this quote. He said, total financial isolation can obviate the need for American force while enlarging the sphere of freedom for our allies. Later in the op-ed, he writes, the world should understand that our objective is to sever every economic lifeline that sustains the tyrannical regime until Iran stands alone. Now, I do want to just give you a little bit of a picture of where...
Yeah, like, the situation for people living in Cuba is just awful. Like, it's obviously awful. And what Cuba is even more fucked by is that it's far too close to America. That's the main problem for Cubans, just having to be too close to America. What's the statement about Mexico? Poor Mexico, so far from God and yet so close to the United States. Same goes for Cuba. Iran has a massive advantage of being a way bigger country and way further away. It's really hard to prevent every single ability of the Iranians to get money out. By the way, as well, they're talking a big game. I don't know how you do this. The UAE has always been a hub for illicit financial flows out of Iran, or what's deemed illicit under, the international community, by the international community, aka America. There was also the major thing of they just reinstated relations with Iran, the United Arab Emirates this is. They kind of paused them again after the attacks that were attacks on shippings that triggered siren in the UAE. So it's kind of I don't know, what happens?
Iran is at this point, because of course we know the Trump administration has already been trying to impose a lot of economic pain on.
I know, but I think the thing about having so much confidence in this failing is it may fail in it probably. I feel like it's unlikely to succeed in throwing the American. Throwing the Iranian government out of power. But what it probably will succeed in is making people's lives incredibly miserable. It will make people's lives who live in Iran even worse, which have already been pretty fucking bad as a result of, economic pressure from the United States. Iran got sanctioned and condemned by the, European countries because Iran left the JCPOA. Okay, that's pretty bad. Iranians are going to start making nuclear weapons. Jesus, we got to stop them doing that. Only problem was they left the JCPOA because the US, because the US because the US ripped it up. But they still got sanctioned. Iran got sanctioned because it was oh my God, you're going to build a nuclear weapon. But it's well, we did have a deal here and you guys kind of tore it up. And what's the expectation now, that we are just sort of meant to sit with the deal or what?
The country over the last several months. Iran's currency has now dropped to a record low against the dollar as the U.S. continues to try and move and tighten their economy even further. There are questions, though, about which allies and specifically even some adversaries, what the relationship with the U.S. and how they're going to respond to.
And it's pretty obvious why the free market can't exist in the case of Iran. Because obviously Israel can't really do anything about an unsanctioned Iran that would just be one of the economic powerhouses of the region. That's the problem with Iran. By the way, if the Shah had tortured and continued to kill people in the same way that, the Islamic Republic, okay, if the Shah was doing everything that the Islamic Republic did, he certainly engaged in brutal repression, by the way, but if he did everything that they were doing right now, right this second, the US would not care. Even if he'd killed 300,000 protesters and just covered it up, and he was there was a coup by evil Islamists, we were in civil war, we would not care. The truth is the problem with Iran is that it's too big a country with too many natural resources, and especially now it has too much of an ability to develop weapons. It cannot be allowed to have to operate freely because it's a challenge to this little settler colony that we all love in the Middle East. This little apartheid state that we just all love being there.
This. And of course, I think the big one is being China. We know that China relies on Iran for its oil more than any other country in the world. We heard Bessent address this in recent days as well. He essentially argued that China was aligned with the U.S. when it came to finding a resolution to the Iran war and to reopening the Strait of Hormuz. Bessent said on CNBC last week that many conversations are best to have in private, and that they're confident that everyone wants the strait reopened and for energy prices to come back down. Look, I do think, though, some context here and kind of underscoring the bottom line is that this war has turned from one that is being fought militarily. A lot of those tit-for-tat strikes between the U.S. and Iran as negotiations have fallen apart to now being a full economic focus. And this is something coming from the top. The president has told his...
Pirates will pirate. Can't blame everything on Israel. Don't forget the UK is all in. I'm well aware that the UK is all in on this, and I'm well aware... often one of the reasons that I don't talk specifically about the UK's role is not because I disregard it or that I think we're somehow much better than America. It's just we're an inconsequential country at this point. Like, the UK doesn't really matter. Like, the US treats us like a laughingstock because we are. We once had the most powerful navy in the world, ruled the biggest empire, and were, like, gloriously rich. And now our country can't build a reservoir. You know, and we can't build working houses. We can't build anything. We're just like this pathetic basket case of a country that just dances when the US tells us to. Like, that's sort of it.
Advisors in recent weeks to seize negotiations as they turn to this new strategy. So more details coming around this press conference this afternoon, John.
It'll be interesting to see. A global economic crackdown on Iran sounds a lot like what was in place before the first U.S.-Iran nuclear deal under the Obama administration. Elena Shreen at the White House, thank you very much.
So today, we're going to be talking about the maximum economic pressure the U.S. is expected to reveal in new sanctions against Iran.
We are going to all of our allies, and this is going to be the greatest coordinated economic isolation in the history of the world, and we are going to them and saying you are either with us or against us.
The U.S. has had sanctions in place against Iran for decades. A congressional report describes the current sanctions as, quote, arguably the most extensive and comprehensive set of sanctions that the U.S. maintains on any country. It's going to block Iranian government assets. It's going to ban nearly all U.S. trade, and it's going to...
It's like the whole thing that this boils down to, and why, like, you know, as I always state it, I can't believe that specifically overthrowing the Islamic Republic by America would lead to much positive, because I don't think we give a shit about what people want in any country. I think it's much more likely to be Pahlavi installed as a permanent dictator. I think there are questions about whether Shara will ever leave power in his lifetime. Ahmed al-Shara elections. What's even going on? Are there meant to be elections? Is he holding elections? 5 years, apparently, he'll hold elections. Let me have a look. Syria's new leadership. Al-Shara said elections would be held. Yeah, here you go. Al-Shara said elections would be held once Syria's infrastructure and citizens' records are restored. He stated that he went into Syria to be a place where every person can vote. Granting him a 5-year mandate.
Ban foreign assistance and arms sales. We're going to find out what else is going to be different this time around. This is CNN's Leila Garagozlu. Thank you so much for being here. Can you talk about first what we're hearing from Iran? Because I understand there is a statement out.
Yeah, so Iran's new security chief, Mohsen Rezai, gave quite a lengthy interview to Iranian state media just yesterday where he discussed...
Well, yes, you're right. Iran has already been sanctioned quite heavily. They got sanctioned heavily by Europe but after their response to the uprising. They also were already sanctioned. They got sanctioned by the US again. They've just been sanctioned. The main thing that Trump seemingly wants to do is to make countries like the UAE say, okay, you know, you have to block everything with Iran. And China. China is in a much better position than the US.
Iran's positioning on further sanctions and further economic pressure. Now, just before we get to that sound, I want to point out that he is a hardline politician. He was recently appointed by Mojtaba Khamenei, so he's taking quite a maximalist approach to this. Take a listen.
Agari means if, I believe. I had a dream last night that we met and that you were a jerk, and then a Shahed drone flew above us and you gave a smirk. Care to explain? Coffee Addict, good to see you. It's been a while. But, so I was being a jerk. How was I being a jerk? And what was it about the Shahed that made me smile? I mean, I think my reaction to be a Shahed would be like, oh my god, it sounds like there's a flying lawnmower above me. Jesus Christ, let's hide somewhere. But I can't really explain it because I don't think that would be my natural reaction. FBI's most wanted list to the US ally, bruh. I mean, there's that old video where they talk about courting Al-Shara and how they were going to tell him to go buy Al-Shara instead of Jolani and his nom de guerre. So, yeah, that's, I think, the way. That's how I think that it happened. You know, I think he was courted by a couple of people. I think he was given Idlib for a couple of years and sort of protected in Idlib to prove that he could rule. He also, the main thing that HTS did, in my understanding, is that HTS kind of basically ate up a ton of other, like, smaller, like, actually quite often, and I know he was an offshoot from, like, Al-Qaeda, the Nusra Front thing, or the Islamic State. Anyway, they apparently ate up, like, a lot more radical Islamist organizations. Like, they'd kind of deal with the leadership, you know, and then deal with the leadership. I assume that kind of means kill them or, like, arrest them or tell them to capitulate or else. And so they did that, and then basically, yeah, he gained a lot of control and power through that. He ruled Idlib, and then I think they were like, okay, yeah, you can go do that. You can go take over the country.
If President Trump decides to take further action, our response, our retaliation, will be seismic. Any country that takes part in imposing economic restrictions on us will be regarded as an enemy. Of course, we will first negotiate with them. We will hold talks and tell them to step aside and distance themselves from the United States. But if they do not...
This is an interesting fact about Idlib. So when Shara ruled over Idlib and it got hit by the earthquake, they specifically refused funding from the relief from the Syrian government. In fact, they actively waited to specifically get aid from Turkey during the earthquake when it hit in, what was that, 2021 or something? He wrote you a poem. What, a social communist? Is that some roses, salvias, butterfly bush, hibiscus, rudbeckia, hydrangea, classic Southern American things.
Act, we will strike. We will target that country's interests.
Also, I think Qatar is in one of the hardest spots, by the way. So Qatar's economy is the highest, that's like the most reliant on petroleum. No, liquefied petroleum gas. Yeah, they have the highest of LPG, and so they're the ones who still got it stuck in the strait. A lot of the others can redirect it. Hello, Chris. Hello, chat. Hello, huge vibes.
So it's unclear what the U.S. is going to do, but that is Tehran's position, at least from the security chief, although there is a debate within Iran's political system over the strategy of this war, especially when it comes to the economy. We did hear from the Speaker of Parliament just last week who said that security cannot continue in this way when the economy isn't functioning. So they are acknowledging that economic pain and pressure, but whether this new sanctions regime...
Also, I think one of the other things about what's going to happen with this is winter is going to be really bad in Europe. If you're a European, get ready for a horrific winter. I've seen some discussions that it's going to be really cold in the UK this winter specifically, and LPG, liquefied petroleum gas, when the invasion of Ukraine happened, that's what sank gas so high. After that, European nations thought, shit, we should stock up on liquefied petroleum gas. They then had big reserves and depleted those reserves because they were like, there won't be a crisis again. Now there is a massive crisis which can't be dealt with by the rerouting of pipelines, which will be a long-term thing. We also have rising food prices as a result of harvest failures in, like, countries like the UK have experienced horrific harvest failures. Then also you're going to have that happening across Europe. You've got the Panama Canal issues. You've got issues in the Rhine. By the way, the Rhine is running low on water. If any of you live in Germany, go check that out. Do some reporting. Find that out for me. Then also, I think, like, you could end up seeing, like, just massive increases in prices of food. As that happens, there will be major problems. Also, the US has problems with beef, which I know it sounds like benign. This kind of shit with the beef is pretty problematic because China has always been, I mentioned this before, China obsesses over the price of pork. China obsesses over it because it's like a cheap staple that people eat, and it's in so much Chinese food, and it's fire in Chinese food. We all know that, you know, Bing chilling, that kind of stuff. The Chinese, they're doing crazy stuff with the pork, stuff that you don't even want to, you can't even comprehend with the pork out in China. They've always intentionally maintained that price is low. This year, for being an American, Noam Hamburger died, first of all, in Israel. Rest in peace, Mr. Hamburger. But also now they're running out of beef because they let them all get worms or some shit. And so it's like, damn, things are going to get really, really expensive. And yeah, that's an interesting thing about Ukraine reporting. I don't know why, but like everything... So I've been reading and trying to learn a bit more about Ukraine. What's interesting is, like, Ukraine is doing these strikes, which are causing problems for Russia, and the whole point is bringing the war home to the Russians, which, you know, is kind of things that if Russia was doing, we'd be told that they were, like, barbaric and monstrous, but it's just bringing it home when it comes to the Ukrainians. But then there's that grain blockade, and also Zelensky's in real trouble because of Fedorov, right? He fired Fedorov, and people really like Fedorov. Is it Mikhail Fedorov? He used to be the defense minister. Zelensky fired him because Fedorov seemingly started trying to target military corruption in the country, I'm pretty sure. And you kind of end up with this thing. Of like, you know, grain exports blocked, and it's not great. I think the stuff with Iran is sort of blown over. I think that Iran was just like, don't do that. Stop doing that now. And then it just stopped. But yeah, it's quite strange with the stuff with Fedorov as well. And Fedorov's calling for elections, and Fedorov's probably more popular than Zelensky. So I don't know. Not enough of a Russia-Ukraine expert. Andy Burnham's there today to give Ukraine the ability to manufacture long-range missiles. And it's like, well, yeah. Well, the other reason that Zelensky's really unpopular is because of what's his name? The name of the... They all call him like a Soviet-era general. I can't remember his name, and they all, like, he's often accused of, like, wasting Ukrainian lives, whereas Fedorov is more interested in, like, working with, I think it's, like, AI companies and doing long-range strikes. The Russians are doing that. What are you talking about, Andreas? I'm aware that the Russians are doing strikes, and allegedly, apparently the Ukrainians were willing to stop them if the Russians stopped them, but the Russians were unwilling to do it. I saw some UK farmer showing his field that his animals that he had to move out because are kept... because his animal are kept in with large-ass cracks in the soil that could hurt the animals if they fell in, some even a meter deep from the level of drought. Oh, I mean, it's not raining at all. Sersky, it's Sersky, that's the name, thank you. Alexander Sersky, yeah, that's it. It's some specific battle where he's accused of losing loads and loads of lives of people, like throwing them away and squandering them, right? I can't remember, it's at the start. Yeah. I think we should allow BRP to comment as sort of like a court jester kind of character. But yeah, I don't think, by the way, to the person who was like, oh, you don't think Russia is doing that, I'm aware that Russia has struck infrastructure too as well. I'm totally aware of that.
Can actually differ their behavior is unclear. I mean, we don't even know what the U.S. could sanction. As you said, there's been decades of sanctions on Iran already, and their entire economy already is sanctioned to the gills. So what is left is unknown. So how much more pressure could the U.S. really put on them? Now, to Mohsen Rezaei's point, the U.S. could potentially target trading partners like Russia and China when it comes to sanctions. And in that case, you know, Iran could turn around and implement some sort of pain on those countries. Audie?
Okay, Layla, thanks.
Yeah, I apologize for that. It's just the way I phrased it. I'm aware that Russia is doing those kind of strikes as well. Like, I am aware. Like, I am aware. So I apologize if that kind of sounded like it's not. Yeah, also, sorry, someone asked why I'm rubbing my hands. I'm currently putting my hands are disgusting today, and I had a load of pain in them at the gym, and I've not experienced that before, and it's to do with how they've been dried out. But yeah. Sanctioned to the gills. Yeah, I mean, this is the point. What do you do? What do they do? No, I can see why that person was like, claiming that maybe I was doing like, or I was trying to say that Russia hadn't done strikes like deep in Ukrainian territory and on infrastructure. I'm sure that they have. Like, I don't doubt that at all. And allegedly Zelensky said he'd stop it if the Russians stopped it, but they didn't want to. I'm not becoming a fly. Shut up. It's nothing to do with Play-Doh either. There's nothing to Play-Doh. I'd be eating that shit.
So much. I want to bring in someone else, David Sanger, CNN political and national security analyst. So, David, you just heard...
It is pretty interesting, though, because CNN have had at least 2 people on, and they're like, what can you sanction? It's pretty evident that they'll try and pressure the UAE. That's it. They're going to try and pressure the UAE. Pretty much they want to do that. They'll end up doing that.
All that. And I want to play one more thing for you. This is the Senate Majority Whip John Barrasso on Fox News Sunday. And he was essentially...
Who the hell is Kurt Jester? Who the hell is Kurt Jester? What does that mean?
Essentially trying to make the case for why this could be different.
It does seem to me that the suffering...
And also, just to say, Iran's economy, I know people call it a resistance economy. And like... By the way, Israel has set up their economy magnificently for fighting never-ending wars and killing lots and lots of people. It's pretty, that's something they've done. It's problematic and it's horrifying, but yeah, it's like this thing of just what's there to it's this thing of people do set up economies that way, and Iran has shown resilience to the level of sanctions going on. Okay. Were they worse than are Iranian sanctions worse than the Caesar Act? Or is the Caesar Act like a specifically bad form of sanctions? I'd have to look fully into that. But yeah, like they might be able to resist it and their government might maintain itself and still exist. But the thing is that like a lot of people suffer as a result of that. And I don't want that to like be missed, people really do suffer under sanctions, and a lot of people like talking about that, but then a lot of people are just kind of like, oh, it's this kind of thing of just saying this kind of thing of acting as if that people will be fine. People won't be fine. A lot of people are going to suffer. Euphemized as defense and security tech. Yeah, that's kind of the thing, because you saw a lot of people who were like, Israel's economy is struggling. Israel's economy has a lot of other problems, such as the fact that like there is a large group of people who don't pay tax. I like that message. Thank you, Marcus. Thank you for a very nice
that's going on in Iran right now. The maximum sanctions being applied are the things that are going to make Iran finally say, you're right, we were wrong, no nuclear weapon, straits open, let's get back to probably trying to get some sort of a life to the future.
Is that the path we're on?
Well, we're about to go find out, aren't we, Audie? Because this is really a great experiment. As you pointed out and Layla did, we've had sanctions on Iran since the 1979 revolution. We've had more intense sanctions since the nuclear program became an issue 15, 20 years ago. And we've certainly had major sanctions on since President Trump's first term, and President Biden didn't lift any of those. So the real question right now is there anything left? And the second question is, can you do this in the reverse of the way...
Yeah, I really want to see what Fox News are talking about, because there will be some incredible cope today. Per Al Jazeera live page as of 15 minutes ago, Iran to target US energy choke points if attacked. IRGC, do you know what they could be referring to? The Suez is the only thing I can think of, and I have no idea the level of dependence the US has on the Suez. It's not that much. It's much more that US allies will be just hit incredibly hard by this kind of stuff, which is the game that they're playing, and that has a knock-on effect on US consumers. Energy choke points, and maybe it's the southern corridor of the Strait of Hormuz. Maybe that's it, or maybe they're talking about Bab el Mandeb and the Red Sea and towards the Suez Canal. I don't know.
sanctions usually happen. I mean, the usual escalation, Audie, with a country is you start with diplomacy, you roll in economic sanctions and increase them to give yourself some leverage.
Oh my gosh, Struggle 4 raiding with a party of 600. Crazy. Wow. Holy shit. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. The Suez was droned once. Yeah, the Suez was droned once, and that was a pretty bizarre incident, I'm going to be honest. God, there are a lot of flashing things on the Twitch chat of, like, Trump dancing and American flags and stuff. Crazy. Hello, everyone. Give us your stuff. It's a raid. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my goodness, my bot's not working. Henry, help me. I was also, like, when you guys were in the process of raiding, I was trying to work out how to reply to a specific user. How do I do it? Do I just type their name? Yeah.
That diplomacy, and you have the ultimate threat that if it all fails, you may go to war. Well, here we've gone to war already. It didn't work. It didn't get the result that the president wanted. And so now he is talking about an economic D-Day, a sort of invoking a warlike
I love burgers
scenario.
and living in Israel.
Oh my god, T-minus 2011 or 2011. Thank you for the 5 gifted subs, my goat. Thank you for supporting the channel as always. Incredibly kind. Thank you for the gifties.
But the fact of the matter is, the war part has already been attempted.
I probably do currently technically have 1,000 viewers. No, about 900 right now, which is crazy. So honestly, I'm always incredibly grateful for the raid. And anyone who enjoys my content, always feel free to stick around. I promise I won't be bigoted. I'll be kind. I've been very nice to a chatter today, so much so that I've got a new friend named BRP. But yeah, I don't know what these new sanctions are. In fact, actually, yeah, I do. I think that the new sanctions are basically going to just be them trying to force the UAE to stop doing stuff. But the UAE has so many business practices that the US condemns. You know, they condemned, like, this guy they condemned, like, those Colombian mercenaries inside of Sudan. But it's just like, they just didn't do anything about the UAE.
Yeah.
Now, it could be different. I mean, the rial, the Iranian currency, has now fallen to 2 million to the dollar. That's pretty bad.
One other thing I noticed is Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, he was writing an op-ed on Sunday about Iran's enablers. And he used this phrase: Iran's enablers purchase and transport its petroleum. These countries calculate appeasement of the regime to be the safer course, but they would do well to consider the consequences of sustaining it. This just looks weird because he doesn't say what countries they are, and I feel like China and Russia are on that list. Like, what is going on there? What is the administration?
I'm also a US government official vague posting, just vague posting about what's happening, about the sanctions that they're going to do is just in Sudan, but it supports or ignores it, similar to the UK. Well, the UK and the US aren't just like a bit, they don't even really condemn what the UAE is doing in Sudan. They condemn the UAE's actions, but then they don't actually do anything in response to it. So they're like, oh yeah, they're doing bad stuff, but they don't mention that the UAE is the one doing them. But you're right, it is just an ignorance as well.
Even trying to do with an op-ed like this when it does.
Mahdi, how's economic D-Day in Iran? Do people even care, or are they just like, oh, more sanctions?
It doesn't really seem like they've put China on notice, so to speak.
Well, the op-ed, which was in the Financial Times, is worth reading.
It is not, by the way. If any of you want to go and read it, it's like sort of just utter slop. Like, it's the kind of stuff that someone who's an idiot would enjoy, but as a Twitch chatter just put it, radiates confidence when they're afraid to commit to saying what they want to do. Keck W. Yeah, it really does radiate confidence. But also, it can't radiate confidence because there's a major issue with that, which is like, okay, you can't do anything. Like, what are you going to do to China or the UAE? The US needs the UAE more than the UAE needs it. Trump needs the UAE more than it needs it. It can't really tell the UAE you can't do stuff. What's it going to do? Sanction them over Sudan? That'd be great, but what are they going to do? Like, okay, they sanction them. what about all of the investments in the US? That'll just piss off the UAE. The UAE is apparently bullying the UK government over Manchester City right now, the football club. They're basically bullying the UK government, and they're like, if you cause problems for Manchester City, we'll cause problems for you.
He didn't mention China, and in 2025, China bought about 80% of Iran's oil exports. So that gives you a sense of how much the success or failure of this is going to ride on decisions made not in Washington, but in Beijing. And the president's got a few constraints up here. Xi Jinping, the president of China, arrives in Washington a month from today. The president really wants that to be a successful visit. It's hard for me to imagine him imposing secondary sanctions on a big swath of the Chinese economy ahead of that visit.
All right, David Sanger, it looks like this is one we've got.
I hate the Queen and British soldiers. That's not nice. That's not nice. Very intriguing things are happening over there. Haaland does have a shit haircut as well. I don't like it. He shouldn't have cut his hair. He looked very nice. Common British folk for the Queen. I mean, I guess we never had a citizen army as well, which is a bit of a difference. The UK needs to nationalise the team to fuck over the UAE's blackmail IMO, but that is the list. By the way, if you ever want to see the hypocrisy around Russia, I don't actually think there's a better example than Chelsea and Roman Abramovich, where Abramovich had done some dodgy stuff and had accrued his money in dodgy ways. But like, the guy who owns Manchester City, Sheikh Mansour bin Zayed, the guy who owns it, okay, is literally like the key node between Sudan and the UAE. Like, it's not exaggerated. It's just kind of crazy. ICC was set up from the beginning mostly for Africans. And also, by the way, the same with the ICJ and the definition of genocide. A lot of those people didn't want the ICJ to include like a wider, more expansive definition of genocide that would be a more apt description of what genocide is, specifically because, you know, that would include their policies. God.
Starting this hour in the Middle East, the Trump administration is expected to roll out what Treasury Secretary Scott...
Okay, I'm not going to watch all of this, but there's yinks. I can't wait to hear Fox News cope about this.
Bessent calls the toughest sanctions in history against Iran.
Chief Foreign Correspondent Trey Yinks joins us live from Tel Aviv with the latest. Hey, Trey.
Yeah. Wait, so this guy isn't just like the... I always thought, because Trey Yinks is only ever in, you know, in Israel, that he was just like an Israel correspondent. Why on earth is this guy the chief correspondent who is only ever in Israel?
Hey guys, good morning. The United States is set to unleash new economic sanctions against Iran to pressure the regime in Tehran. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent wrote on Sunday, President Donald Trump and the overwhelming might of our military have significantly dismantled Iran's military capabilities and weakened its nuclear program. Now we...
Also, by the way, what a terrible writer. President Donald Trump and the overwhelming might of our military have significantly dismantled Iran's military capabilities. You're repeating military too much there. Use a different word.
We are entering the end game. At dawn begins an economic D-Day, the single greatest financial offensive ever marshaled against an adversary. The economic pressure comes as the Iranian rial crossed 2 million to $1 US, a historic low for the country's currency. The head of Iran's Supreme National Security Council responded on X, saying if the economic war continues, not a single drop of oil will be exported, neither through the Strait of Hormuz nor anywhere in the Persian Gulf. Iran will regard any country's participation in or support for America's economic war against the Iranian people as an act of war. Despite this statement, reports do indicate that crossings through the Strait of Hormuz are up 400% over the last 2 weeks. The United States is overseeing vessels out of the Persian Gulf through a safer southern passage. The passage does allow for millions of barrels of crude oil to be exported.
I'm also pretty perplexed by this because Trita Parsi, who I find like a, you know, an alright source on Iran-related stuff, and he's written some good thoughts. Andreas Krieg, who's hardly like a pro-Iran person, pointed out, What is the evidence for the crossings, apart from unverifiable hearsay from people wanting to make the Trump administration look good? Like, I don't really get it. Like, there's not much evidence that there are all of these crossings occurring.
Each day, still the Iranians remain defiant.
The fact that the United States has once again moved from military threats.
I'm sure, by the way, I'm sure that there are a couple of companies, because in terms of these companies, okay, like, there, you know, when there's a blockade, when there's a siege, when there's like difficult situations, you break that siege, you are making a lot of money. And also, hello T minus, thank you so much for the gifted subs, incredibly kind, thank you so much.
Saying that it will strike and so on. To reviving its old plans shows that they are truly desperate and have no solution when it comes to the great Iranian nation. Therefore, they keep bringing their old plans back onto the scene.
The U.S. naval blockade also remains in place as CENTCOM says 70 commercial vessels have been redirected since the blockade was reimposed. In terms of U.S. military movement, the USS Abraham Lincoln is headed home after being...
Oh, also, I know you guys kept recommending Radio War Nerd. The thing that was interesting, they had Amerikanets on again, and he was talking about, like, why Iran hasn't sunk a carrier strike group, and he was just like, yeah, it's really hard. I thought you can maybe drone swarm them, but they've now got these big lasers. Also, if you're wondering what's happening in the YouTube comments, this BRP guy is just sort of, he's sometimes here and he's a bit wild, so I'm just sort of messaging him and asking if he's ever heard of China.
Deployed for 274 days. This aircraft carrier made its last port call in December, breaking a Navy record. The vessel is being replaced by the Japan-based USS George Washington. On Friday, President Trump doubled down on his position that the Strait of Hormuz is now U.S. territory.
Yeah, there was a raid from Struggle 4, my goat, as always. I'll do a raid later as well, if any of you are interested in raiding. The other thing that I was going to say is, now that Japan is unprotected, China should launch a massive invasion of Japan, but like a limited one, okay? They head straight for Tokyo or wherever the center of Pokemon is, and they just steal all of the expensive Pokemon cards, and then like hand them out to Chinese YouTubers who can become the next Logan Paul. It's a bit of an idea.
They'll never have a nuclear weapon. They want to make a deal so badly. We don't even know if we want, because I view the Strait of Hormuz as an American territory right now. It's an American territory.
The question remains, will this economic pressure lead to a new deal or a return to combat? Guys?
So, Trey, if we're going to put these sanctions on, presumably they're going to be on other...
Yeah, that's actually what he was saying as well. He said that one of the other things that could have happened is if you did that, that's like 4,000 soldiers dead. That is just like, yeah, not a good idea. China won't attack any place. They just want to trade. Yeah, but sometimes when you find out about Japan hoarding Pokemon cards, you have to attack. They'll never have kind of sounds like an admission. They never had one. Well, this is also something. The intelligence that Iran had a nuclear weapon is literally just what Israel says. Israel says China has nuclear weapon. That's what it is. That's what it boils down to. Iran has nuclear weapon. We have to go after them. Also, I need 2 more followers on Twitch. Follow the shit, and we're at 3,600 followers. My goats.
Countries that deal with Iran. If they trade with Iran, they're going to be subjected to our sanctions. So that means Pakistan, because Pakistan set up their own trade deal with Iran. That means Turkey, who set up their own trade deal with Iran. People are focused on China and Russia, but these other countries are going to be in the line of fire, and that's kind of a tenuous situation.
Absolutely, and there's 2 points to note here. One, the Pakistani field marshal that does have a relationship with President Trump is on the ground in Tehran today, trying to work out some of the behind the scenes of what is taking place. Remember, there are no direct communications, according to both sides now, between the United States and Iran about a possible agreement. And this does come on the heels of what are expected to be massive economic sanctions against the regime.
Thank you, Froggy Jam. I don't know who the follower that pushed me over was, but thank you so much for the 3,600 followers. 3,601.
The second thing has to do with what President Trump said earlier this month. He indicated that any country around the world that is doing business with Iran, providing sanctions relief, or trying to get around these economic measures would face economic consequences of their own. And so the United States is trying to put into place...
Did Israel's Mossad before say Iran didn't have nukes? It's just the so-called free press media repeating what the State Department believes. The State Department doesn't believe... The State Department doesn't believe that that Iran had nuclear weapons. It's Israel that says Iran has nuclear weapons. It's Israel and their legion of moronic propagandists who sell the notion. There was some story that was pushed out that was like how a fake claim was made about and it's just about establishing some guy's powerful saying, oh, we might have nuclear weapons, and then it's like, oh my god, they have it, and it came from like an Indian Twitter account or something.
Here, a program that will not only pressure Tehran, but will also deter allies of the Iranians from doing business with the regime. The goal here is to economically isolate the Iranians from the rest of the world and try to get them to change their behavior. But we have to look at the situation on the ground. We have been stuck in this cycle in the region of strikes and statements with no end in sight.
So, Trey, real quickly, their first plan was to use the Strait as leverage. And it looks like the administration has gotten that under control, so they can't really...
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Oh, didn't Israel's Mossad before say Iran didn't have nukes? Yeah, it is just... You're right. It is... and people are saying this on YouTube. They don't believe it. None of them believe it. Their intelligence knows Iran doesn't have nuclear weapons, that Iran hasn't pursued them, that Iran... The interest in civilian nuclear power, apparently, as well, historically, is something to do with prestige and believing you need it to be like an advanced country. And also that, you know, it's probably a thing of like having a right to make decisions about your country. You know, having the right to make a decision about whether you can have nuclear power that you're not even using for a weapon.
Play that game right now, although they'll do some type of, strikes here and there on different cargo ships. But their next plan now is the November midterms. And I'm just curious, what is their stated plan? How do they plan on leveraging that against the president?
So the Iranians often, through propaganda outlets, will talk about the midterms in the United States. President Trump has told Fox News that the midterms are not affecting his decision-making process as it relates to Iran. When we look at the levers that the Iranians still have to pull, there were some interesting statements over the weekend where some...
To be honest, that might actually be the only true thing that they've said here. You know, highlighting the under control stuff. I think Trump has actually decided that the midterms don't matter because there is absolutely no way to reverse it now. Like, I'm sorry, doing a war in service of Israel, and I know people, I really do know, okay, this thing of like, I think the relationship is more complex than, you know, the tail wagging the dog and this kind of stuff. But at the same time, I think the Iran war is for Israel. I think Marco Rubio admitted this very quickly when he shouldn't have. When he was like, well, Israel was going to be attacked, so he had to join. It was very evident what Israel wanted, which was to attack Iran. That was the point of this. They wanted to collapse it. They told Trump, yeah, you can do a quick one. The protests already there. Just move your forces over there. Protect us. Iran will fall very quickly. Lindsey Graham openly talked about this. It didn't fall. Israel finally realized that they had a president who would listen to it because of his own hubris. Lindsey Graham actually played a big role in selling it as well. But it's just, yeah.
Some top IRGC officials were talking again about the country's nuclear program and hinting at the fact that they may try to advance what remains of that program. But when we look at the Strait of Hormuz, the Iranians continue to say they are in control of the strait. The reality on the ground is very important to look at. The crossings through the Strait of Hormuz are up 400% over the past 2 weeks, but they're still down about 90% from pre-war levels. What the United States has been able...
I think also one of the things that removes Trump's ideology from... I think one of the things that means that Trump is not so ideologically committed to Israel as other people have been. Trump is like the least religious US president in recent history. Like, he's just not religious at all. And a lot of support for Israel derives from religion and also, like, you know, these prevalent myths about civilization. That stuff might sell with Trump, but he's old. I think what actually got Trump to do it was literally he thought that he was going to succeed really quickly and that he would fulfill bipartisan policy like he did in Venezuela in a few days and prove that, you know, he was amazing.
To do here on the side, which is quite interesting, is oversee vessels that were previously trapped in the Persian Gulf safely through this southern passage out of the Strait of Hormuz. And this is allowing millions of barrels of Gulf crude oil from U.S. allies, not from the Iranians, to be exported. And it's undercutting Iranian efforts to maintain control over this critical waterway. And so this operation, coupled with the economic sanctions and the ongoing U.S. naval blockade, U.S. officials hope will ultimately change Iranian behavior. But at this point, we're looking at weeks and months ahead with, again, the Iranians remaining defiant because they don't care if their people are affected. What they do care about, though, is the possibility of protest erupting again inside of Iran. And regional intelligence sources tell Fox News that is a legitimate concern for officials in the Iranian capital.
All right, Trey, thank you so much. The New York Post has an excellent article. It's called Scare. It's on the front cover, Scared Straight. And it talks about how the Iranian supreme leader is under mounting pressure from the Iranians because of the high inflation, unemployment, the grip on the strait has weakened.
By the way, once again, I don't think that it is wrong to say that Iran is under pressure as a result of these things. But what are these new sanctions apparently changing? Sure, the war will have caused problems economically, but those problems existed already. It is certain as well that the Iranians have been able to boost their legitimacy by blowing up American bases pretty successfully.
And it talks about how cash is tight. Top political leaders are urging the regime to find a way out. Iran's own oil exports have dropped to near zero. And then you heard Trey talking about how there is flow through the strait and it represents...
Yeah, it's also really funny to be talking about whether Iranian leaders care about their population when you are literally shills for Donald Trump, who evidently doesn't give a shit about anyone. His own administration were mocking their, favourite class, and the people who support him were mocking their favourite class, veterans and soldiers, because they weren't happy about having no supplies on a ship.
It's a 400% spike in the last 2 weeks, which means Iran has lost partial control of the strait. So I hope that this pressure and then the sanctions today, there will be conversations, because you brought up a good point about the midterms, but that's still 9 weeks away. How long can they hold on?
It's true. Well, yeah, if they could wait and just try to make...
Also, I'm not sure if you're still here, but who said that they've given up on predicting the midterms? Do you not think it's a shoo-in that Trump's fucked? I can't remember who that was. I apologize, but do you not think it's a shoo-in he's basically fucked at the midterms?
October hellacious. Gobbleoff, the speaker, said no matter... Over hellacious. Gobbleoff, the... Ghalibaf.
His name is not even... It would be... If you were just reading it, it would be closer. It would be Ghalibaf, not Ghalibaf, which is his actual name. I assume it's Ghalibaf. But him calling Gabilaf.
The speaker said, no matter how much military we have, if our people are struggling and the country lacks financial circulation and economic growth, we will not achieve progress. Yeah. So that's the good cop. You know, that's right. Now, the bad cop is the IRGC.
Right.
In the meantime, the Trump administration is getting ready to announce what it is calling Economic D-Day, an operation designed to completely isolate Iran's economy. Here to give us some analysis on all of this is General Jack Keane. General, good morning.
It is really amazing that if the Second World War had happened today, Trump just definitely would have sided with Hitler, because he wouldn't have sold Britain any ships ever, and he'd have just been like, I hate you, Britain. He'd be like, I hate you so much, Churchill, because Churchill didn't really love America that much. It's actually interesting. Him, Lenin, and Hitler all wrote pretty similar things. Not that there's any ideological similarity between them. Aside from Churchill and Hitler, they probably had much more of an ideological similarity in the sense of they were both pretty ruthless imperialists. But the thing is that, when it comes to... he was kind of scared of American coming dominance. Trump would just be arguing with him and just hating him. And you want proof of that? We'll talk about in the next segment, which is beefing with fucking Canada. Just beefing with Canada over and over again. And that is true, actually. You're right about that. They did finance a huge amount of bombing in India. Did Churchill like India? Yeah, Churchill said nice things about India, right? Right? He was a nice guy.
Morning to you. Thanks for coming on today. So it looks like President Trump is deciding to hold off on kinetic military action, at least for now, and he's opting instead to try to strangle Iran economically. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has a big announcement this afternoon. Here's how he is teasing it. He says, quote, "We're now entering the end game. At dawn begins an economic D-Day."
Also, Stalin did sign, obviously, well, he was there, what's it called? The Molotov-Ribbentrop, Ribbentrop? Is it Ribbentrop? Is that it? Ribbentrop, sorry. The Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. So, I don't know. I don't know enough about, like, what the Soviet motivations were for signing that, but there's quite a lot to be criticized about that.
The single greatest financial offensive ever marshaled against an adversary. Our objective is to sever every economic lifeline that sustains the tyrannical regime until Tehran stands alone. General, what do you think of the strategy here?
Yeah, well, if anybody can do this, it's Secretary Bessent. He comes into this position with lots of experience, lots of determination, and obviously he's really very smart and clever at how to do this. Countries like Iran and Russia have always developed a workaround to sanctions.
Also, lot of similarities in the sense of, you know, there was a massive underestimation by the Germans of, of the Russians. Like, they really underestimated them. I think the US has done that as well with Iran. Non-aggression pacts aren't the problems. From what I read, it was to buy time. The USSR. Yeah, that's the problem with the book I'm reading. So the book I'm kind of reading right now, it had a lot to do with Poland as well, right? That the Russians were like, we don't really like and care for Poland. So if the Nazis go after them, we don't really give a shit. But, in my understanding, my understanding comes from one book as opposed to, like, someone who's focused on the USSR. It's focused on the German side. So it's kind of just like, yeah, the Soviets did this. It doesn't really explain why the Soviets did it. It's more why the Germans did it.
Have known that. Even countries that are abiding by the sanctions, after a few weeks, they have a tendency to throttle back. And it really takes U.S. enforcement and supervision, day in, day out, hour by hour, to make certain that those sanctions are really being executed. And that takes a whole team to do something like that. I'm assuming he's putting together even a larger team, more like a task force, to be able to accomplish this. What he's actually saying here is that all trade and all business with Iran will stop.
Hey, Langian! I love burgers! Thank you for the 4 months. Subscribe with Prime. Currently on a 2-month streak. Thanks for the 4 months, though, my man. My goat. Thanks for supporting it. Good corrective to the modern Polish nationalist myth that it was all the Soviets' fault. Yeah, I mean, the other appeasement was crazy. Like, they just kept appeasing this guy who kept on just showing that he wasn't interested in it, that he was just going to keep on doing crazy stuff. And it's like, oh my God, you know, the similarities here today of some idiot just planning on doing ridiculous shit and just constantly pushing things further and further.
That's what he's trying to enforce here. I don't think that has ever been tried before. If anybody can...
Where does Twos give that as well? Is that in Wages of Destruction?
Accomplish that, in my judgment, it is this man. And just to give you a sense of how complicated this is, Pakistan and Turkey...
Thank you, Forbidden Economics. The Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact was signed while the Japanese army had just invaded the Soviet Union. See the Secret War. The SU could not afford a war on two fronts. Interesting. Thank you so much. Am I crazy to think about Trump not doing this extra sanction shit? In what kind of way do you mean? I mean, appeasement probably was a way to try and buy time, but also at the same time, Chamberlain seemed pretty invested in the idea that, like, Hitler was going to obey it and do it and not continue carrying out, not prosecute the war in the way that he did eventually. I also as I said, just reading about Barbarossa is so insane. Like, the thought of that just being like, you know, I don't know, just the thought of that being like a reality, like being some little Nazi soldier sent on that front after your victories of just like, holy shit, we're going to invade this massive country. And of course they wouldn't have known about like the insanity of Hitler just interfering at the top and thinking he was the greatest warlord ever. But oh my fucking God, just like like the experience of that, like just going in and fighting that must have been horrific. And for all of the, you know, of course, much more the Russians who were, the Russians, the Polish people, the Jewish people, all of the minorities that were just like relentlessly slaughtered and rounded up by just repugnant Germans as well.
In the month of August, this very month, have entered into an agreement with Iran to increase their trade. The UAE handled all of their financial arrangements for years, all during this war period. And that adds the complication to it. Now, the UAE has voluntarily severed all relations with Iran. And our audience can say, well, why is this? Why are the allies supporting them? Why are our partners supporting the Iranians like this? And the list is much longer than I described. Well, they take the note from us. For 50 years, we've had an appeasement strategy with them. We tried to make deals. We did all sorts of things with this regime. We never confronted them until this president.
Also, by the way, it's funny we're talking about appeasement and then he starts talking about it. Like, Hitler was appeased and given the things that he wanted, and he refused to accept them. Like the Sudeten Germans, he got them, right? That was one of the things the British gave to him with the Czechs. These guys signed a deal with Iran that lasted a year. Iran obeyed it, and then they ripped it up.
President did. And that, yes, that's going to take a behavior change on their part, Bill. They're going to have to cooperate, and we're going to have to get tough with some of our allies and the partners to make sure they contribute to this isolation of Iran. The second and third parts of this is the blockade, which we've talked about and how successful that is. All of the revenue sources that Iran gets from trading through their ports is shut off. And then the third thing, and we're talking about the success it's achieving, is opening up the Straits of Hormuz off the coast of Oman. The task force from the 82nd is doing that for the CENTCOM commander.
Well, like, but that's kind of the crazy thing about, I don't know, just like hearing the term appeasement in relation to this. Like, it doesn't describe it. The Iranians were willing to do, like, the Iranians weren't just looking for fake appeasement. They were willing to accept this kind of stuff. Another forever war. But no, it's not a forever war. We just got to get the Strait of Hormuz open, okay? We got to get this, okay? Fox News viewership equals US nursing homes plus Chris Kunzler. USA broke every deal with Iran, was under sanctions. That's exactly what I mean. Like, describing it as appeasement is just gross. Like, it's just wrong. It is just wrong. Also, by the way, as always, anyone on Twitch who's new, if you got a Prime, feel free to throw that my way. Always appreciated. Or become a member if you'd like, on YouTube or Twitch.
And they're increasing that traffic through there. 200 last week, 150 the week before, less than 100 the week before that. All moving in the right direction. Still a far cry from 130 ships per day transiting through there. I'm sure the market is seeing the trend is moving in the right direction. So we're on a path here to bring Iran to its knees. That's what Secretary Bessent has in mind. He actually talks about it collapsing. The truth is, nobody knows. Where is Iran coming from?
That is a good point. Appeasing Jeffrey Epstein's... I love burgers! K Dean, thank you for subscribing with Prime. Thank you for supporting the channel. As always, deeply appreciated. Thank you so much. But yeah, appeasing Jeffrey Epstein's best friend, whose appetite is described as voracious, is, you know, certainly an interesting one. I think it would be very hard to appease someone who is literally much more governed by impulses of thinking that he is, you know... Trump thought that he was the greatest politician ever because he managed to find a sort of collaborationist group in Venezuela who were like, fine, yeah, you can get rid of Maduro if you change things because we're struggling, the country's struggling, and Delcy Rodriguez was tricked a little bit in the sense of how bad the agreement has been, but yeah, it's just...
Bill, they fundamentally, this is their leaders who run the place. They believe that...
Oh, God. Also, you know what? Something else I'm thinking about? The information the information that we have heard about Iran from ostensibly respectable outlets, that they didn't have many missiles, that you could blow them up, that you just had to blow up the launchers and everything would be fine. Biggest load of bullshit ever. Do you remember how dominant that discourse was at the start, where we heard that, like, oh, the US is going to take out their launchers and that's it, they're done. Like, they're done. Once they don't have launchers, they can't fire the missiles. That wasn't even inconsequential. It literally did not matter at all.
Can outlast the United States here. They don't care about the suffering of their people. They're willing to make sacrifices themselves, likely. And they consider victory surviving. And if that is the only thing that you want to achieve here, they're going to go as far as they possibly can. They don't even know themselves how far they can go. We're going to find out here as we move down this path. And if they do what I think they're likely to do, which is increase the violence to demonstrate that this plan of President Trump's is not working prior to the midterms, then the president will respond very decisively against something like that.
All right, got to leave it there. Iran's been hammered by the War Department. Now it looks like they're about to be hammered by the Treasury Department as well. General Jack Keane, always appreciate your insights. Thanks for joining us today.
I really appreciated his insights.
To the Middle East, the Trump administration is expected to...
That's actually enough out of Fox, but yeah, I mean, I guess the thing is a lot of this will probably develop later on tonight as to what they're actually planning, but I'm unsure fully. Oh, I love burgers! Adrian, thank you for subscribing with Prime over on Twitch. Thank you for supporting the channel. My man, thank you so much. As always, I hope you, as always, like, deeply, deeply, deeply appreciate it. Yeah, it was pure cope from the beginning with Iran and still cope now. Well, the other thing is this Amerikanets guy, all he seems to do, or his, like, special trick, is to just dig deep into, like, US actual assessments. All of the US assessments point to the fact that, yeah, they all point to the fact that apparently the US was always destined to fail this. And he says this. There are old videos on my platform, by the way, of when everyone was clowning on this girl on TikTok saying, ooh, the Houthis are not to be played with. And everyone was like, here's a carrier strike group. The Houthis caused problems during Operation Prosperity Guardian. The US wasn't able to deal with them both under Biden and under Trump. And then after that was done, after Prosperity Guardian was done, it was pretty evident that it was hard to beat the Houthis. Then they decided to go to war with Iran that was going to do exactly what it was going to, how it was going to, like, that it was obviously going to be a disaster. Iran can continue like this for 30 years if needs be. The only question relies around, like, how much suffering can the population take? And that's the worry. And I just don't want people to suffer, you know. You're right. And Adrian, yeah, I saw you commenting on YouTube. Sorry I didn't get around to responding. Also, saying that you have to get tough with your allies is basically saying they're not allies, but vassal states. But we already knew that. Yeah, I mean, we'll do, actually, quickly, we're going to do definitely, no, actually, no, let's do Canada's more important. So if you haven't seen, there's a lot of funny discourse right now. I'm really enjoying it, and it is true. And I cannot believe that this is going to be the new strategy of liberal parties, and why you probably should realize that there's going to be a long-standing, there can be like a long-standing victory for liberal parties, especially across Europe, and probably will boost the Democrats, is how disastrous Trump has been. Have a listen to this.
Choice. This was not our choice. We were there. We were ready and close to having a comprehensive agreement that would be fair to both countries. We were close to that happening, and it seemed that we were close to reaching a comprehensive and fair agreement with the United States. But they made changes, including...
Mark Carney is a worm, you're correct, but he has just secured so much. As someone pointed out here, he's about to get Saddam numbers in Quebec.
Threats on the French language and Quebec culture and Canadian culture. That is not acceptable. That would never be acceptable. This was not...
I have this is apparently all true, by the way. We'll look at the full list of demands now. I'll have to save it because it's a long-ass image and it's quite small. So this is apparently a summary of the key demands. Veto over strategic partnerships. So, I mean, first of all, that is insane that you're asking for that. That is basically making you a vassal state. Preemptive trade restrictions on non-US nations. Mandates forcing Canada to match US sanctions, export controls, and import tariffs on third countries. By the way, probably would have agreed to all of this. Probably would have agreed to this. Jurisdictional preemption on critical minerals. Requirements for the US to receive guaranteed right of first refusal and price caps on all unrefined critical minerals. Lithium, nickel, cobalt, uranium extracted in northern Canada, restricting domestic processing and export to other allies. Pretty large demand there, just we get your resources. First right of refusal would imply as well, right, that the US has the first right to them and they can refuse it. Mark Carney, Canada, Palestine. Thank you so much for the $2. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. It's like Andy Burnham, by just saying some slightly mean things about Israel, will no doubt secure like a huge amount of the Green vote. But just insane. Just insane, like how easy this is. Oh yeah, someone was like, this is the kind of contract that Britain signed with its colonial powers not even long ago. Rescinding digital services tax and online news act. To be honest, I don't know what Canadians feel about that. It is a bit of a nuisance though that you can't, you know, if you're not Canadian, I don't know if you knew this, you can't see if you're in Canada. Oh shit, I was meant to text my girlfriend. Just started. Sorry, my girlfriend's like, you have to tell me when you start talking about Canada, and I forgot to tell her, so there'll probably be a very angry girlfriend. Okay. Rescinding the Digital Services Tax and Online News Act demands the total repeal of Canadian legislation requiring foreign tech platforms to pay taxes on revenues earned from Canadian users and compensate Canadian news publishers. Yeah, I mean, this is kind of a bit of a nuisance, yeah, not being able to see Middle East Eye, not being able to see other things when you're over there, and it's kind of like, I don't know, I don't know, it's kind of like, it is a bit of a nuisance, I'll be real with you. So, Trump, rescind this now. He cancelled the tax. Which tax did he cancel? Who rescinded the tax? Carney? Trump was never negotiating in good faith. The tax is cancelled already. Yeah, I know, bad boyfriend hours. Yeah, but you can't see, the thing is you can't see outlets like Middle East Eye that are pretty reputable. Which tax, Crystal? Which tax is cancelled? Sorry, I don't know which tax. The tax on what? The foreign tech platforms. Oh, okay. Elimination of cultural and language protections. Direct demands to dismantle Canadian content CanCon quotas. I don't know what that is specifically. Roll back the Online Streaming Act and exempt US goods and digital services from provincial language laws, specifically targeting Quebec's French language protections. The fact that this guy did this is genuinely insane. Genuinely insane. The idea that Trump thought that whoever told Trump this was a good idea. I mean, looking from the outside, as someone who's not like an expert on Canadian politics, the reason he'll have done this is Quebec's autonomy does seem like a bit of a nuisance. Because whenever I talk to people about going to Canada from the UK, they're like, oh, isn't it so expensive? Quebec isn't, and apparently some of the legacy of Quebec not being as expensive comes from being like really good rent controls, and obviously that Canadian language stuff would be a nuisance for US companies that would eat into their profits. And I think like doing this is just one of the craziest things to do imaginable. Like, genuinely, CanCon is a regulation that there must be a portion of French media available in proportion to English. Thank you. Did you cover the EU politics and corruption? I need more breakdowns. No, I don't, but maybe that's a smart thing to cover. I look at the things, and sorry to detract from this, I look at the things that I want to cover, and I'm like, I don't really love US electoral politics. It doesn't interest me perhaps as much, and I guess my niche is more foreign politics right now, foreign policy, Middle East related stuff specifically, but I guess EU stuff. And I do talk about like the UK as well, just not as much as I should. But yeah, these demands are insane. I guess it's so that they can dominate it in the US, but that's what I mean as well. When I was in Canada, you can see how successful Carney is by just standing up to Trump. The fact that Trump has put stuff like this on a plate for him is disastrous. It's also why I would be really questioning whether in the future this will be... there's kind of an... If you're not from the UK, but I'm sure you will know this, there's an assured or like a dead set feeling that Reform will win the next election. Burnham has thrown a spanner in the works to that, in the sense that, Burnham's looking more popular. Burnham is doing pretty well, like in terms of his popularity. In terms of his policy, I don't think so much. But this whole thing of like Trump's meddling in foreign politics to back far-right organizations is a massive problem, because these far-right groups are so twinned with this country that is now in Quebec saying, yeah, you've got to change your language laws. And Quebecois, Quebecois nearly seceded in the 1990s, and now you've literally just given a mandate of like, yeah, Carney mentioned the French language stuff is just not acceptable. That this stuff is not acceptable. He hasn't stood up to Trump. Yeah, I love burgers! Oh, Grandma Caprio, thank you for subscribing with Prime. Thank you for supporting the channel. Perhaps he hasn't stood up to Trump as much, and I think Carney would have been happy to accept a lot of this kind of stuff, in terms of a lot of this. But the problem is whilst you might be right, it's like the Burnham Israel stuff. I was talking to a friend about this, and he was like, he's less interested in politics than me, but, he cares and, like, thinks Israel's fucked up. Like, on the first day of the Iran war, as someone who I don't really talk to about politics, he was like, nah, the US is evil. Like, what they did to that girls' school is just, like, barbaric. And it's like, it's interesting to talk to, someone who's not as interested. But when we were talking about Burnham and Palestine, it's like, Burnham optically speaking, they're like, yeah, we're going to block Israeli settlements. We don't support Israeli settlements. We might stop trading the goods. And it's like, too little, too late. And you're not reversing the Palestine related stuff to do with Palestine action and stuff. But yeah, you don't like the burger sound. People do like the burger sound. I don't know, generally. Maybe we'll have to veto that. Five Uncle Death Grips. It's barbaric, moving on. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the thing with how it all operates. So much of these liberal parties are operating on optics, and Trump is handing them like this sort of, people described it as the mandate from heaven, or like Saddam-style numbers, that, you are literally giving to Carney, someone who is not, you can find someone who is more of a dog for Trump. That's possible. Poilievre was more of the dog for Trump, right? You can definitely find him, but Trump fucks the chances of getting the other one. Fucks the other chance of getting someone who will do exactly as he wants. And so I think that's sort of it. Israel will not give up its settlements without force. The only thing about that is you could probably sanction Israel massively as a means to degrade the lives of the people living there who are used to a Western standard that would force many of them who are dual citizens and high earners to go over to Western society, and they would pressure the government by withdrawing capital, you would assume. But then again, how much the sanctions really work. So yeah, we'll decide the burger thing. Maybe I'll re-record it just like, I love burgers and living in Israel. I love burgers. A bit of debate over the I love burgers, but yeah. Let's carry on with this. Elimination of Buy Canada public procurement rules. Requirements that the Canadian federal, provincial, and municipal governments grant American companies equal access to tender for public infrastructure contracts, prohibiting preferences for local Canadian suppliers. Jesus Christ. Jesus fucking Christ. Like, just basically, this deal is insane, by the way. The fact that this is what the US was demanding, over $20 billion worth of goods, is just... Oof. I cannot believe that they actually tried this and thought that this would work. Carney already quietly does what Trump wants. It's the show of it that forces Carney to at least publicly dissent. I mean, he won on a platform of elbows up just to meet American NATO spending, cutting public services, and a load of other neoliberal policies, choices that aren't good for average Canadians. 100%. But I think that the problem is, and the point that I think is the more interesting aspect of this, because I feel like this is analysis that most of us would all agree with on a basis of just like, these liberal politicians and centrists are not saving us, like, at all. These liberal politicians are not saving you. They are just going to continue the same policies. They are appeasing Trump. It sucks 100%. But this kind of thing of Trump creating the problems for himself is way more interesting. That there is like a level of stupidity and blindness around Trump that teaches him that you should go after the Quebec language, well, like French language in Quebec, Quebecois. And it's just like, how do you reach this? How do you get to this? And hello, Irene, it has been a while. I hope job's okay and stuff. These are demands are worse than literally no deal at all. Yeah, 100%. Over $20 billion worth of goods. And by the way, it's horrific for Democrats who are in the nearby area, and also Republicans who are in the nearby area. A Canadian conservative, as opposed to Pierre Poilievre, who is an American conservative. We are fucked up here. Yeah, he is a horrible guy. They want to destabilize the Canadian economy so the Albertan separatists and conservatives can gain some motion. NATO spending is kind of a requirement now when your neighbor and defense partner are now threatening your sovereignty. It's a cost of the times. I don't even know. Europe, if Europe actually wanted to raise spending, they could do it around building a common army in Europe, but that won't work and they won't do it. Isn't Carney a Lib Dem? Not really. I mean, maybe he would be like a British Lib Dem, kind of, yeah. Except the British Lib Dems, as woke neeks get, or someone loves telling me, support Iran having a nuclear weapon because they're like, everyone should manufacture one and not have the Americans having it. Okay, right. Dismantling agricultural safeguards, demands for administrative measures or removals comprising Canada's supply management system for dairy, egg, and poultry sectors, alongside demands to automatically adopt US chemical and pesticide standards. By the way, I'm sure that that's something that they're also willing to stand on business of, right? That they're willing to stand on the business of basically saying, okay, look, we don't want all of this US shit in their stuff. No, Canadian products are not as bad as American products in terms of chemicals and just nasty shit in them. Definitely not. And so obviously they want that so they can just pump whatever they can make big chicken or whatever. Unilateral alteration of auto rules. Exclusion of heavy assembly plants in key auto sectors from tariff relief, combined with restructured rules aimed at shifting auto assembly jobs directly into the US. What? How on earth did you ever expect Canada to sign this? That you're going to move heavy interest, that you're going to move your industry to encourage jobs in the US. What? Demands to extend data exclusivity periods for foreign pharmaceutical firms, delaying generic drug access in Canada and driving up provincial healthcare costs. It is incredible, by the way, that Trump is, we literally just heard Fox News tell us that Iran doesn't care about their people. Trump literally is talking about his desire to drive up healthcare costs. priority allocation of Canadian energy, requirements for priority allocations and price guarantees on Canadian crude oil, natural gas, hydroelectricity, and nuclear energy exported to the US. Binding military and Arctic mandates forcing Canada to hit specific defense spending benchmarks dedicated strictly to purchasing US-made military hardware for Arctic surveillance, and NORAD and NORAD updates. What the fuck? If Canada wanted to, they could choose to ignore the pharma patents entirely and super fuck the American pharma giants. Well, I hope they do, but I guess that's the kind of thing with all of this and him being a liberal. Yeah, but Drac, the logic of them wanting the deal to fail, why would you include the Quebecois stuff in it? Why would you include that if you wanted the deal to fail? If you wanted the deal to fail and be like, look, Carney fucked up and couldn't make a deal. What is it about this? What is it about this of causing the problems for the Quebecois is a good idea? And also, someone said 300 on Twitch. You are right. 300 on Twitch is crazy. There's 313. I had about 140 even before the raid, so it is incredible. And I thank you all greatly. Thank you for everyone who supports over there. I do think, is it playing ads for you? Because now I'm a partner, I think it does play ads. I'm not 100% sure, though. Does it play ads for you guys, or... pasteurization is what they do to turn us into cattle. Okay, lowering customs and de minimis rules. Demands to reduce tax thresholds on cross-border e-commerce, giving American retailers tax-free access to Canadian consumers at the expense of local businesses. Are you the top one gay of Hassan Piker? That is certainly one of the most interesting comments I've seen vis-a-vis Hassan. Well, first of all, I'm not Hassan. And, first of all, I'm not gay, and neither have I banged Hassan Piker. But third, and perhaps most importantly, Hassan Piker isn't gay either. So what's the implication? That he wants to bang me? Or that I'm like his number one gay fan? Or what do you think it is? It's an interesting comment, though. Thank you for that one, of saying that I'm the top one gay Hassan Piker. Who would be the top two gays? Why do you lie? What about being the top one gay of Hassan Piker? Yeah, I apologize for that. I apologize for, yeah. Aspirations of Canada being the 51st state. He wants to dominate the official language. He wants to suzerainty over it. It's bullshit, but he wants an unofficial conquest. Yeah, which is kind of crazy. Hassan memed about one of his friends being the top gay in his book. Ah, okay, I see. Ow, my fucking hands. Perhaps the implication is that Hassan Piker keeps a stack of gays at hands. That is plausible. That is plausible. Two dudes fucking don't have to be gay. It could be friendship, you know, as well. It could be a sign of just being a little bit bored and fiddling about. Who would begrudge a man a little fiddle? Ow. My thumb. I don't think Chris looks like Austin, though. No. Why is Canada in its entirety a single state anyway? Well, it's a province. It's split up into provinces, but you're right, it is fucking massive. Canada is a crazy country. I enjoyed Mélenchon's tweet. Trump menace le Québec. Il lui encourrait d'aller plus loin dans cette direction. Les Français sont liés, sont fils au Québec. Soyons prêts à agir à la rescousse de Canada et de Quebec. Trump threatens Quebec. He would regret going further in this direction. The French are steadfastly bound to Quebec. Let us be ready to act in support of Canada and Quebec. That wasn't a Quebec accent. That was a French accent. I thought the French didn't give a shit. No, I don't think they really do. I think Jean-Luc Mélenchon is just looking for anything to fuck over Trump. French don't really generally care about Quebecois, do they? France is going to save Quebec. The French are going to launch an invasion. Previously, the French military has been brilliant during the First and Second World War. This is another tweet I enjoyed. I'm in the lab with Mark Carney cooking up a new super opioid to unleash on the streets of America's shittiest states. I believe this to be true, and some of you who said, oh, Carney's not doing anything. Well, ostensibly, he's cooking up a super opioid with that guy. Oh no! One of my favourite tweets today was that Canada should take inspiration from Israel. But yeah, I don't know. It is crazy. It's. What have you said the other day that it's like, isn't it more dangerous if there's some kind of competent, like, liberal character in power? And in some ways it is, and I tend to agree with you. Like in the case of, you know, in the case of, like, the UK, I worry that people will be sated by Andy Burnham making things slightly better, but then as he continues with the neoliberal policies that were followed by his predecessors and things worsen, the only thing you have is the stick of fascism to beat people with whilst you lay the groundwork for it. You know, of being like, don't elect the mega racist because I'm slightly less racist, but I'll lay the groundwork for the mega racist to win again. China will send Canadians a Labubu Statue of Liberty. If they did, it would be awesome. If only Carney was that based. I know. Anything less than nuking Washington, D.C. as a warning is a failure on Carney's part. Stephen, that is an interesting take. I'm intrigued by it, to say. You know, it's kind of, yeah. Fuck Mark Carney for real. Yeah, I know. I'm not fooled by who Carney is, you know. It's just kind of crazy that he's doing so, sort of, he'll do so well out of this, that Carney will undeniably gain massive success out of the disaster that this really is. Canada was really before Israel before Israel. Yep, don't think you're wrong about that. This Heidi Bahram posted this photo saying the modern face of extremist hate against Jewish people, and it's just some nice looking person with a t-shirt that says "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free," and a watermelon. And it's like, come on, extremist hate against Jews, come on. Oh, Jesus Christ. Today is the anniversary of the burning of the White House by the British soldiers in Canada. Wow, I didn't know that. How interesting. As an American, Canada should not be the 51st state. Deserves at least 3 states. Deserves more, just unlimited states for Canada. Give them a Quebec state and let them do crazy stuff up in there. Canada is suffering from "at least we aren't the US" right now, and it's terminal. Yeah, I know. I think you're right as well. Trump is fucking over the far-right parties. Definitely happy about that. Don't care for them. But it's just the case of, is this a reprieve for a short period of the same neoliberal policies that lay the groundworks that, you know, when things are bad, what do people look to? Radical solutions. There will be some who look to the radical solution of attempting to build some kind of decent society that is radically leftist, but unfortunately they will always face off against like capitalist elite and also huge institutions which are in favor of ensuring that we kind of end up following and going further down the path of racism, you know. Les Québécois ont les pronoms et l'islamo-gauchisme. Nous devons détruire. As a non-American, Canada deserves to invade America and put some civility into your states. Now they gotta leave. They gotta leave like some kind of nice state alone, right? Like some kind of nice state. And yeah, something post World War I. That's the trouble. Like that is the trouble. You know, the condition is there, and the condition is worsening in the sense of, unless you push some kind of radical change of, like, you know, left-wing politics, I think that all the libs have is a stick of fascism to beat you with, and that stick, unfortunately, is quite successful with a lot of people, and it will be successful with Canadians. It will probably be quite successful specifically as well with, you know, Quebecois, for pretty evident reasons. Also, right, I'm going to put on a little bit of music. Some intermission music, the kind of music that's getting me sent to prison, Intifada. But yeah, I'll be back in a second. Ask the indigenous people how civil Canada is. They're just icy Yanks. True, especially towards their indigenous people. Hello. I have returned. I am back. Hello, everyone. I hope you're all good. I hope you guys are still enjoying. Yep, if you're interested, this is Riyad Awad's music. So Riyad Awad was a Palestinian. This was released during the first Intifada. He was actually arrested by the Israelis for this. All of this music is available on Spotify, YouTube. Fantastic music. Honestly. Yeah, just highly recommend it. Okay, right. I've got one more interesting story to cover and stuff that I kind of want to talk about, which is really, really probably the most important thing ever. The Hulk from Hulk film, Mark Ruffalo, has come out as anti-Semitic. The Big Green Man has come out to persecute the poor Israeli people. Let's have a listen to what Mr. Hulk has to say, how anti-Semitic he's become. The accusation that I'm anti-Semitic is appalling and fundamentally dishonest. Criticizing the actions of the Israeli Prime Minister, a military technology contract, or the executives who supply it is not the same as criticizing Jewish people. Look, that's a nice little statement at the start. There is a bit which I'm not so fond of. This critical and necessary dialogue is then dishonestly framed as being anti-Israel. That's where I'm sort of a little bit like on the side of caution, because I'm like, you know. But I think it falls within the thing of like Miss Rachel. You do have some celebrities who are pretty radical on Palestine, like Liam Cunningham seems to be, you know, the Onion Knight from Game of Thrones. You Master Stannis, I've lost me fingers in an incident. But anyway, like people like Liam Cunningham seem to be a little bit more radical. But like Mark Ruffalo does like speak out for the Palestinian people. And I'm glad he does. I'd much prefer that to him not doing that. It's just like saying, like, being anti-Israel as if that's bad, because I think one of the things as well is when you're talking about criticising the Israeli Prime Minister, what you're criticising him for are policies that are largely supported in Israel that, you know, most politicians don't give a shit about there. And the average Israeli is like, yeah, I don't mind the Gaza war. Like, I support the Gaza genocide. I described it as the Gaza war. It's the Gaza genocide. I do apologise for that. However, let's carry on with this. To be clear, my views come from my own political convictions and should never be interpreted as hostility towards Jewish people, for whom I have a deep love and respect. Everything I know about acting, activism, and humanism has been profoundly shaped by my Jewish friends, colleagues, and loved ones who have been integral and family throughout every point of my life. This merger has real consequences for real people and for the entire country. Scrutinizing the Ellisons, including Oracle's businesses built on data surveillance, technology, and government contracts, and the serious threat to editorial freedoms and the loss of livelihood for thousands of families is fair and necessary. The $111 billion deal that would hand one family control over CNN, HBO, and Warner Brothers, backed in part by foreign money whose influence on editorial decisions has never been fully expanded in public. Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle have called for serious national security review, and regulators still haven't given the public a real answer. Until they do, the merger shouldn't move forward. Now is the time to dive boldly into all these issues, not step back or concede. Yeah, he definitely is libbed out. I don't know about Javier Bardem, like how I don't really follow like these people. I will say there is always this thing of liking when people speak out, okay? When people, because I think when it comes to Israel, there is still this element of like speaking negatively about Israel and calling out what it does draw negative criticism. It just really does suck when there's something here and when there's just something here of like, you know, I'm not anti-Israel. That sucks. And I would like to see that to change. I would like to see that change massively. Saying, actually, I'm anti-Israel. Flat out. And there are people who do that. And I don't think that that's a big ask in the here and now. But the shift of like the willingness of people to not just be like, I want peace for both sides. And to be like, nah, fuck Israel, fuck, you know, what they're doing. I don't like these other things, and it's not anti-Semitic to do this. Fine, great. And I'm glad that someone with as big a platform as him does that. Who didn't get a Zio Darling Scarlett Johansson tattoo. If he removed that line, his statement would effectively be perfect. Yeah, it's just like the saying like anti-Israel stuff. Like, I mean, like, what are you then if you're not anti-Israel? Like, what does that mean? But I think that, like, for me, that's kind of, you know, it's not what I want, but what can you do? I'm more interested by the fact that nearly 1 million people fucking like this. I'm sure that, wait, I'm sure that Hen Mazzig has produced some kind of gold in relation to this. That's a place, by the way, I know people followed the California gold rush once upon a time. If you're ever interested in following the modern day gold rush, anytime there is some kind of post vaguely critical of Israel, go and check out what Hen Mazzig is saying. Oh, what the hell? What the hell just happened there? You don't see that every day. Let's have a listen to Mr. Mazzig.
It says that Israel is committing a genocide, and he's been saying it since 2021. Back then, he had to apologize for it, but now, since it's trending, he's back. Here's what happened. A Jewish man named David Ellison wants a merger between Paramount...
I also really enjoy how in, like, the world of Hen Mazzig, okay, because the whole thing is creating this notion that, like, you know, Jewish people are being criticized for no reason. He just calls him a Jewish guy. He's a billionaire. He's not just like a random Jewish guy being persecuted.
Paramount and Warner Brothers. There is valid criticism around it. Fewer studios, fewer jobs, one company with too much power. All of it is fair. But Ruffalo led with the fact that Ellison's father founded Oracle. And after October 7, someone at Oracle said that the company would help Israel. A Jewish family, a company his father runs, a colleague who supports Israel after the worst massacre.
Like Jewish people just owning businesses in Germany. I'm sure that, by the way, there were some repugnant businesses owned because there were repugnant businesses owned by everyone everywhere, and that's not why the Nazis had problems with them. But, like, this guy owns a particularly repugnant business, you know? Like, he owns a surveillance company and is helping a state doing, like, war crimes against Palestinians.
Of Jews since the Holocaust, and that's the reason to block a movie studio deal in the mind of Ruffalo. Speaking of October 7th, Ruffalo posted on that day he was watching in horror what was happening between the Israeli government and Hamas, and he prayed for the innocent people of Gaza. Over 1,200 Jews slaughtered, and the word he cannot bring himself to say is Israelis. What people don't say tells you everything. Now many have noticed, and he is furious. The accusation that he is anti-Semitic is appalling, he says, but since he brought it up, let's look at a pattern. You know I like patterns. A Jewish family buys a studio, it's about Israel.
Oh my god. A Jewish family buys a studio. Do you not see how weird this is? Like, I'm sure everyone here sees how fucking weird this is as a way to kind of be talking about things. Like, I genuinely do feel that this is offensive because these people try and make out that what is happening to Jewish people today is similar to the historical persecution of Jewish people, right? Like, that's what people like Hen Mazzig do. But at this point, you're not talking about, like, Jewish people who were long maligned, long mistreated by, multiple Western governments that culminated in just horrific violence against them. And then this guy is just like, yeah, a Jewish guy bought a studio.
Richie Torres supports Israel.
You get bought, little by little.
Not that Torres thinks differently, that someone paid him to stand against anti-Semitism. You know who. His own friends from...
What on earth? What on earth? Richie Torres. Yeah, apparently Richie Torres is... of course Richie Torres is paid up by Israel.
Before October 7th, who don't say Israel should be destroyed. I can't talk to them anymore. I can't relate to them. And the word anti-Semitism, well, he said on camera that it's part of the system of oppressing free speech developed by Israel. So Jews with money are suspects. Those who disagree with him were definitely bought. Friends who disagree with him are gone. And if you call that
By the way, this guy works for the Israeli government, and I think you're right about that, Fit. It does seem to be a pity that this guy cannot recognize that this guy cannot recognize at all the pattern of Israeli war crimes. Kind of crazy, isn't it? The problem I have with this line of thinking is that Jewish people are not oppressed in the US anymore. The same thing that they describe as discrimination is happening every day in America to black people, to Latino people, gay people, to indigenous people. I have never heard of this happening in the day 2026 to Jewish people who have been adopted into whiteness. I find this extremely infuriating. Of course. But, like, that's the whole thing, by the way. After the Second World War, what the West wanted to do was portray Nazism as a mad outburst. Like, Hitler was not only writing of how much he loved America, he was like, yeah, holy shit, once we take Eastern Europe, it's gonna be like India. The British, I don't like them, I don't like Churchill, but damn, Churchill was doing some good stuff with that empire. But these people would have you believe that, like, no, that was a one-off, a specific targeting of Jewish people that could only happen to Jewish people. And now today, the handmaidens and the people who perpetrated that are still around. Like, Marine Le Pen is a friend of Israel. Her father founded a Nazi collaborator thing.
Semitic, you are the problem. He says none of this is about Jewish people. He's the only one who actually believes it.
I understand this need after coming out of the Holocaust to protect yourself. But you can't steal.
Hey, big guy.
Sun's getting real low.
Mark Ruffalo says that Israel is committing a genocide, and he's been saying it. Mark Ruffalo says that Israel is committing a genocide, and
did he upload this video 2 times?
The Avengers just assembled to free a man serving 5 life sentences.
This guy is such a prick. Avengers. Marwan. So yeah, so the stars of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, including Tilda Swinton, is that Don Cheadle? Yes. Daniel Brühl. Oh my god, Daniel Brühl. What the hell? Daniel Brühl. If you don't know who Daniel Brühl is, he's in some he was like the biggest German actor ever. He's in Goodbye Lenin. He's in like an Israeli film, isn't he? I swear Daniela Brühl is in Israeli films. Israeli film. He's on the raid. Daniel Brühl is on the raid of Entebbe. But yeah, so they're also mad because the Mark Ruffalo and his guys and ladies, Zoe Ashton, Emma Corrin, Kingsley Benadia, Hugo Weaving, Benedict Cumberbatch, Mark Ruffalo, Tatiana Maslany, She-Hulk. Yeah, like loads of these people have come out. I can't see Hugo Weaving. Oh, there he is. Hugo Weaving is, what's his name in Lord of the Rings? He's the elf. Elrond. He's Elrond in Lord of the Rings. Okay, so this has upset Hen Mazik to no end.
Spider-Man Brand New Day.
Oh, God. The celebrities playing Marvel characters endorse Marwan Barghouti, a man who is convicted of orchestrating the murders of 5 people. Do they know the Jewish roots of the stories that have made them rich and famous? I mean, most of these people were rich and famous anyway, especially Tilda Swinton, Hugo Weaving, Daniel Brühl. All of these people are incredibly rich anyway, especially if Tangerine Shadow is to be believed. I think he is German Lightning McQueen. Mein Gott, bin ich ein Auto? Oh, and of course there's an irony in that, like how deeply related Disney is as well with the oppression of the Palestinians, like 100%. But like, these people, like Marwan Barghouti's trial is not solid. Like, it's not solid at all. It is a sham trial. But the apparent right-thinking Israeli, once again endorsed by Ethan Klein as the guy we should be listening to, who's subjected to brutal anti-Semitism by Hassan Piker, is, you know, is just working for the Israeli government and saying shit like this. It is truly incredible. But don't worry, because it can often be quite difficult to understand why anyone is anti-Semitic these days. Luckily, Johnny Greenblatt gave us an explanation. The posts by Mark Ruffalo over the past 48 hours are sickening. Are cynical and sickening, I apologise. Oppose the Paramount merger on the merits. Find arguments grounded in facts. And draw on what you know about the industry without engaging in anti-Semitic rhetoric. Introducing the Jewish state out of the blue when it's entirely unrelated, making baseless claims about Israel, and then trying to avoid accountability by essentially claiming some of my best friends are Jewish is gaslighting 101. 101. Mark Ruffalo, your acting might be convincing on screen, but careless and hateful words like yours continue to put Jewish communities around the world while anti-Semitic incidents are far too common. 2,000 people like this, by the way. 2,000 people. That's so fucking dumb to think of that simplified. It's like if you want to blame Jewish people, you're falling for the Israeli propaganda to wear the skin of Judaism. Like, neo-Nazis are so fucking dumb to think they're simplified version of the world. Walt Disney would be a card-carrying Nazi if he wasn't frozen somewhere. He's not frozen, is he? But it's good to hear from Greenblatt to explain to us why the Hulk has become anti-Semitic. But, like, by the way, I just want to show you. I know there are some people who are like, who are of the opinion that this sort of stuff doesn't matter. Like the way in which anti-Semitism is talked about. Have a listen to this. This is from LBC a few days ago. I'm not going to show you the whole thing, but just listen to this.
He's got difficult elections coming up in a month's time. How do the Israeli settlers in the West Bank, how do they figure into the sort of broader political picture in Israel at the moment? What are voters thinking about it?
I mean, part of the reason why he's in power is because he's pandered to these settlers. So, you know, he's got a coalition government. He's got people like Bezalel Smotrich and others who are very pro-settler. And he would never have been able to stay in power were it not for his alliance with these different groups. So obviously they appeal to this kind of, you know, extremist Jewish settler movement.
Israeli settler movement, I should, yeah, to be. Yeah.
But they're Jewish. I mean, let's be specific. They're not Arab Muslims who are settling on that.
Like, this guy is a British radio host who thinks it's problematic to say Jewish settlers.
That land, you know, we have to be accurate in what we're saying. So there is Israeli Jewish settler movement, and that's exactly what they are. There's nothing controversial about saying that. So it's clear to me that, you know, even if you look at the timing of it, like the bids that they're putting up for this.
It is just incredible that this lives on. It just feels like the Hollywood elite types and wait until it's more palatable to come out and be pro-Palestine. Maybe I'm just a pessimist, though. Yeah. And if we're being pessimistic and a little bit cynical about the Marwan Barghouti stuff, the Marwan Barghouti stuff sustains a vision that if Barghouti was freed, there could be a Palestinian state. Barghouti is undeniably one of the most popular figures. He should be freed, by the way, for any of these people who are like, he killed people, even if he did, right, like, do that and his trial is really sound. It's not, by the way. But let's just say it was. He would be like the average Israeli politician. Like, you know, Naftali Bennett, Avigdor Lieberman, Netanyahu, Ben-Gvir, Smotrich. By this logic, they should all be in prison. Actually, they should all be in prison, and they could have sound trials that would send them to prison. But, like, talking about the Barghouti stuff, in some ways, Barghouti does sustain this vision, like, oh, if he was free, there'd be a two-state solution. As if it's that there's a lack of Palestinian organization or, you know, a unified struggle. Yasser Arafat, for all of his failures and such, was a unifying figure in the Palestinian struggle who was very popular. They didn't get a two-state solution then. Why is it that these people are telling you, if you just free Barghouti, there will be a two-state solution? I think it is about sustaining the impossible vision that entirely relies on Israel. And it's why, you know, a statement like anti-Jewish, anti-Israel, sorry, I'm not anti-Israel, is so problematic to me. I'm confused because Israelis are either Jewish or Christian/Muslim in terms of population, and majority Jewish by far. What do you mean? What are you confused about? Correct. Policing how Palestinians discuss what is happening to them is stupid. The problem of Israel is Jewish supremacy. Should all Jewish people around the world face backlash? Of course not. Yeah, exactly. I don't think you should police the terms of naming it for what it is. Jewish supremacy is obviously a dumb concept in America where, like, white supremacy is the major issue. But if used in the context of Israel, yeah, it really does matter. It really does matter to name it what it is. Like, in any context in which laws were being applied to non-white people, which preferentially treated white people, you would describe that as a white supremacist state, aptly. Where they are being applied on the basis of Jewishness, being supreme over other ethnicities, would be Jewish supremacy. We have a bad history of assassinating popular leaders. Stepping up is putting a target on your head, and oppression is the intent. 100%. No Palestinian citizen of Israel is living in a settlement in the West Bank. Come on. Yeah, I don't actually know. There might be like one. There might, like, Yosef Haddad might live in a settlement, probably. Like, West Bank settlers are all Jewish Israelis, I believe. There will be some Arab Israelis living in settlements. So on r/Israel, this guy said, I don't know any who live there. There are a few scattered families throughout the more urbanized settlements. So potentially. There's also a Reuters article in 2014 which claims that Arabs move into Jewish settlements. So maybe? Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, maybe. We're doing the Mark Ruffalo stuff. I actually saw, If you want to see something that
You
has
wanna know-
been all over
Welcome to the Burger Reich.
Tara, thanks for becoming a member. Hello, Tony. I will show that in a second. Sorry. Also, thank you so much. So I've been seeing this from like these lib accounts like Jeremiah Johnson. Anti-Semitism. Okay, right. We'll watch the clip first.
Because people don't fuck with Israel any longer. And if Jews in America keep putting this idea out there that they are singularly invested in Israel, eventually someone's going to come around and take action, not against the state of Israel, mind you, but against American Jews. Okay? We're teaching people the wrong lesson. I don't know how people don't recognize how dangerous this predicament is, how dangerous this is for Jews. You're running around basically tying your entire identity to a country that inevitably will be seen as basically Jewish ISIS. And you're saying, as Jews, this is all we care about. You're making anti-Semitism worse. And you want to know why?
Like, people acting as if this statement is insane. It's telling a fact that does suck and does need to change. Like, Israel claims to act in the name of Jewish people. Western governments over and over again associate criticism of Israel with, associate criticism of Israel and actions against Israel as anti-Jewish violence. They have over and over again claimed that protests against the state of Israel are anti-Semitic hate marches. This is rhetoric repeated by the UK government. Like, I don't understand how that statement is meant to be insane. Like, it is talking about how, yes, this generates problems, and it definitely generates problems, by the way, and it will generate more problems, especially since the Iran war has been horrific for this, because obviously the New York Times was literally publishing articles about how Benjamin Netanyahu was there doing a slideshow twerking for Trump, like, invade Iran, invade Iran, invade Iran, and he did it. And it's pretty obvious that it has not served American interests. It is just going to feed into the notion. It is going to feed into the notion that, like, Jewish people control the world, and the thing that you have to do to change this is by being like, yeah, Israel does not represent Jewish people. Its history is wrong, immoral, and unacceptable. Yeah, and Israel, by the way, is the thing that has created, has like sought to create a cohesive identity through the flattening of Jewishness. There are still other Jewish people who aren't really flattened into that identity, though, like Bukhara Jews. I don't know if they still, if they're what their population is like in Israel. I'm a Muslim Palestinian, and if I stood with ISIS, I would expect people to be Islamophobic. Is it not a similar thing with Israel? I think the thing is though, when you're talking about Islamophobia, being like aggressive towards you on the basis of you standing with ISIS is a very different thing to generally portraying Islam as like an evil and barbaric religion as a whole. Like, obviously ISIS is a grotesque manifestation of, Islamic fundamentalism that is really, really repugnant in its goals, its actions, and its behaviors towards minorities, and just it's awful. It's just straight up just awful. And so criticizing that is totally, totally acceptable. And in the same way that when it comes to criticizing Israel, it's obviously not anti-Semitic. And also, I do think one of the problems is when people end up obsessed with Jewish people, you can see the misguided path that they go down because they're like creating Israel as this big other. And I see these people, they've used the October the 7th. They've used the like post-October the 7th world to kind of capitalize on people disliking Israel whilst they're still conservatives, whilst they still support the American empire, whilst they're still racist. And they're like, yeah, look at what Israelis do to Palestinians. They treat them as the big evil, the ones who are responsible for all of the problems in the world. Zionists promote internally the idea anti-Semitism is predetermined, thus nothing they can do as responsibility for it. I mean, yes, Islamophobia is way more common. Yes, definitely. It's not... I feel like, you know, kids will make ignorant and think like ignorant things and say like jokes about Jewish people and stuff. And that's kind of exists amongst all kids. I think the problem with Islamophobia as well is just that it's just its prominence and the like way more, how much more common it is. I think one of the major problems with Islamophobia is the fact that it is just accepted in political circles, you know, that it is just okay to be really, really gross towards Muslims and say whatever you want. How many presidents have ever been anti-Semitic? I mean, Drac, I feel like that's a bad question. I feel like a lot of early presidents were probably quite anti-Semitic. And also, Trump is kind of anti-Semitic, but it's just like, he's anti-Semitic in a sort of way that, like, you know, if he was pro-Palestine, every single thing he'd ever done would have been latched onto, but because he supports Israel, it doesn't really matter. The difference is Judaism is accepted as part of the Western civilization and Islam has been accepted as against Western civilization. 100%. And like when you read what Hitler says about like Asiatic modes of barbarism practiced by the Russians, and you read that and like why that gives license to do anything, you're like, hang on a second. I'm seeing this today with Israel. They're talking about like the barbarism, the Asiatic savagery of Hamas that is beyond the humanity that Israel can even ever engage in. Like the kind of violence that Hamas do is just something that is a plane, a world apart. And you kind of look and compare the two and it's kind of like, well, I see this sort of similarity of how they license everything through barbarism. Chris, when do I get my memes? Well, Tony, how about you come in? You say I told you late. I told you 5 minutes after I'd started and it was crazy. Yeah, I should say modern presidents, 100%. Ben Shapiro doesn't lose sleeper. Yeah, 100%. Book for years was a book of Hitler speeches, according to his ex-wife. People blur the line between institutionalized and individual acts of racism to suit their propaganda. Exactly. Exactly. Institutionalized racism and bigotry. If someone is like a leftist and they fuck up and they say something fucked up, like, you know, or they do something that's like fucked up around like, hey, you made this statement which I find pretty gross, and then people like talk to them and they show a willingness to learn and say, hey, that was actually pretty gross. That is a lot less, that is like a lot less significant than people who pretend to be leftists but like advocate for the same systems of degradation of like colonized people all over the world. That is like way less forgivable, you know, in the same way that like I don't love everything Finkelstein does, and he's certainly done some odd things, like especially that stuff involving that family and some of his other racist comments, his desire to use slurs. He did say the funny thing about Egyptians where he said Egyptians are all capitalists, but anyway, like, but like you tend to see that I'd have less smoke, and that's not to say I wouldn't criticize Finkelstein at all, but you have less smoke for someone like Finkelstein, because what Finkelstein actually cares about is, I don't know, ending Israeli oppression of Palestinians. 90% of liberals are racist as fuck. They just have a fun fantasy world in their head that makes them not racist. 100%. It's also, I was talking about this earlier before you guys were here. There's like this thing of like, have you never noticed that like Destiny and stuff are just like acutely aware of anti-Semitism, but they're also like, I need to say the N-word, please. I gotta be saying the N-word. Oh my god, they're announcing Economic D-Day. They're announcing Economic D-Day. God, I'm seeing all of these worst pro-Israel people, like, kind of responding this. Like, it's very obvious, yeah. Yeah, they're talking about Economic D-Day. We kind of spoke about it already, but yeah, that's kind of the conclusion. Hulk, anti-Semitic. Hassan Piker, anti-Semitic. Everyone anti-Semitic, and that's the end. Okay, I have some Quebecois-related memes. I did show some of these. Okay, so there's a conversation here which begins... It's pretty clear that at this point, Quebecois linguistic nationalism has managed to limit migration and keep an otherwise urban and populous province astonishingly homogenous for North America. Definitely not in Montreal, which is Berber hell, but Quebec City is one of the last supermajority European metropolitan areas in North America. Montreal, which is Berber hell, and then it's Jeffrey Epstein and a bunch of other people apart from Zizou, who I don't know who they are. Someone said, where is Berber heaven then? Constantine. God, what on earth are these people talking about, though? Jesus Christ, the kind of things going on amongst race scientists is just incredible. Nazi clan members harassed, Nazi/clan harassed Muslims in Dearborn last week. Yeah, that Jake Lang fuck, isn't it? Enjoy your evening. I'm about to finish up anyway. Also, this is the other news you wanted me to say. Canada threatens to cut off all electricity and critical minerals to the US, including high-grade nickel and uranium. If the Canada-US trade war worsens, Ontario Premier Doug Ford says, "I'll cut them off. You won't get a grain of sand out of Ontario." Adding, "What would they do without the high-grade nickel?" Ontario President Doug Ford says, "Everything is on the table, including power to 1.5 million American homes and high-grade nickel uranium." After Trump announced new 50% tariffs on Canadian autos, parts and steel starting next year, and 50% on $20 billion worth of Canadian goods Saturday. Wait, I've got to call Isaac. Maybe I should have called him and got him to read this. He would have loved that. That would have made the little boy so happy. But yeah, Lemon, thank you for the $2. Nothing ever happens. No, yeah, I mean, I think it's more likely to resolve itself. But then again, I think making predictions with Trump, and especially being in the nothing ever happens brigade, is pretty dumb after the Iran war, because nothing makes sense about that, and that fucking happened. So that's always a pleasant advent. This person has found out about the concept of PFK first. Low-key love how weird and serious Quebecois are over the French language. That KFC is PFK, Poulet Frit Kentucky, in Quebec, while still being called just KFC in France. That is true, actually. That is incredible. Better be getting that bag. Oh, no, I'm putting hella ads on my stream, which I apologize for. It's just a case of trying to, you know, build myself up as a little streamer boy. He was a streamer boy. She was a streamer girl. Do I have to make it any more obvious? Did you see Abdel El Sayed denounce something Hassan said about how a Zionist was promoting anti-Semitism? No, I didn't see that he denounced it, but it doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me. I saw the statement. I just didn't have a chance to read it. Okay, guys, that'll be the end of today's stream. Just because, you know, it's Monday and I've been streaming for a bit, 4 hours nearly. I hope you guys have a lovely, 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 lovely rest of the day. Well, you should be seeing ads on Twitch. It told me you're seeing ads, but I don't know whether you are. Oh, I don't see ads anyway. Nice. Stop saying signs in France. Stop signs in France say stop. They say arrêt in Quebec. Okay, my fave is couche-tard. Couche-tard. Okay, right, guys. I'll end the stream there. I hope you guys have a lovely rest of the day. I'm about to go call Isaac and go pee. See you all later. Have a lovely rest of the day. See you all tomorrow. I will be live definitely tomorrow. Wednesday's a bit up in the air, but I'll get back to you on that. Okay, see you later.